What's up, you guys? Welcome to a new Lightshare episode. I'm back with Adrian and Andre again. And today we got Tayler back on from episode 8. You guys haven't watched that already. That was 3 years ago. But we're finally bringing him back on again to discuss a lot of current events that are happening now and Taylor's perspective on it, how he's been doing. So, yeah, let's jump into it.
Welcome back, dude.
Sweet, yeah. Thank you guys for having me again. Thanks for making time on Sunday to do this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Always a pleasure.
So, how's the whole journey been since the last podcast?
It's crazy. It doesn't feel like it's been 3 years. Time for me is just like kind of been, I don't know, it's been elapsing pretty damn quickly. But the journey's been, ups and downs. Just to give a perspective of like kind of when I entered like the industry and started working, I just graduated into the pandemic. I had $250 in my bank account and over $50,000 in loans. And I was just in a panic. I was just like, what am I going to do here? That whole time of just getting on my feet after graduating was like, I don't know, it was a little tough, but now the journey is a lot easier. That's for sure. And I've had amazing opportunities from, some of my professors I've had at school, friends as well that are willing to help me out with opportunities that come up. I got to work on some amazing titles like Spider-Man 2. I worked on Teamfight Tactics. And then from there, I started to work on like smaller projects with startup companies and taking a little bit more risks on that end. But I don't regret it at all. Like that was a lot of fun and I learned a lot. And when you're working on a smaller team or smaller studios, you tend to wear more hats. I don't know if you guys have worked in startups, but it's you learn a lot more skills than you would think. And it kind of allowed me to grow a little bit quicker, I think. But right now, I'm a little bit away from the industry and focusing more on kind of my own path, like making my own like content and helping students as well. Because like during that whole time, I was also teaching at the school I graduated from, LCAD. Dom and I actually went to LCAD together. And it was awesome. It was like awesome helping students, but like seeing what a lot of people are doing nowadays, especially like some of the greater artists, they have their own Gumroads, they're doing workshops and mentorships, and they're super cost effective for students to actually take these classes instead of having to take out these lump sum loans that are practically mortgages. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm trying to go down this path to helping more people, providing them cheaper education, doing workshops and that type of stuff, but also using that as a means to build up my own portfolio. I feel like I'm at that point where I've done the industry work and a lot of it's kind of behind the NDA closed doors. So I have to refurbish my portfolio right now and learn some new skills, apply those, and actually show like what I'm capable of doing right now. Not like what's reflecting in my portfolio from like 2-3 years ago, or even in school, I have some old stuff there. So it's a little slice of where I'm at in my journey right now.
Nice, bro.
That's pretty relatable with the NDA stuff. Can't show anything yet, but I can definitely see a lot of what you said in some of your recent posts. Like I think you posted something about Adobe Medium and VR, like implementing that into like implementing some 3D into your workflow, still maintaining that painterly style and stuff. That's really cool to see, those kind of process videos from people. Like Dom's a master at that, he always posts a lot of behind the scenes kind of stuff and how he painted stuff, because people usually they tend to mystify this process a lot. They just see the end picture, the end result, and they think, whoa, like you pressed a button and that happened, right? Now, of course, they don't think that, but they imagine there's something really difficult in the middle happening. We just don't know exactly what that looks like. And when you show it, a lot of times it's like, is that it? You just did that? And you're like, yeah.
Looks like magic,
Yeah, but it takes, what people usually miss on this is that it usually takes a long time to master those techniques. So they actually look easy when you make them. That's why we make the same analogy all the time with like physical sports and all that stuff, because it's quite quantifiable, I guess. Like the number of repetitions, that how many times you do this, how often you show up to training sessions and all that stuff. It's the same story with everything else, you know. Whatever you put your time and energy into will eventually manifest into some powerful end result, you know, something bigger than you've ever expected that you were capable of building or achieving. So
yeah, I'm actually glad you mentioned like the reps part, because I think that's like overlooked, especially with like it's like what we have with Reels and TikTok. Like you mentioned like showing the process of stuff, and I think a lot of that is kind of like a little like magic trick illusion to a lot of like starter artists, because they see like these 10-second segments of like what might have taken like 40 hours to do, and it's cutting up and dicing up everything and making it look simple, and it's appealing and it's awesome. It's cool to see like segments of the process. There's like the repetitions behind that to get to that point, to make content that's 10 seconds long and it looks super easy. Yeah, those people put in tons of time to get to that level, just like you guys have like with your own like process of becoming artists. It's like you guys know that. You guys know it takes like you know, behind closed doors you're doing the work, but when you're presenting stuff, it's like it looks easy and it looks like effortless, but people don't see like the work behind it, you know?
I feel like it's a notion that's deeply embedded in our subconscious, perhaps conditioned by, I don't know, we grew up with movies and video games and stuff like that. Things that are like stories that are represented in a 20-second montage with like different sequences where the character is growing and improving and, you know, and then you somehow can't grasp the magnitude of the amount of time it takes to do what he did in that minute, right?
So it's like the Rocky montage, and like running upstairs.
5 years compressed into 1 minute. And you can't grasp that unless you try it. So I feel like, that's a common misconception about this. Like you brought up the TikTok kind of stuff, like ultra compressed things, like carefully selected moments. Leave the mistakes out, right? Don't show that.
Yeah, it's all curated for an audience, you know, especially the successful stuff. There's like
it's like highlights.
A method to it. Yeah, exactly.
Only the best scenes.
Yep.
We can, I guess, go a little bit into the mindset, how we've been seeing that in recent times, I guess. Like, what have you been observing about the whole art community as a whole, and how, I guess, things need to improve, you know, like in terms of self-improvement and like, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What have you been seeing lately?
I'll just speak for myself from experience, because it's kind of hard to, I mean, I kind of have like assumptions on like when I see like different artists, like, hey, like maybe like, especially students, like what you can improve on and whatnot. But like whenever I try to help people improve their own process of like learning art, I try to like speak from my own experience. And a lot of what's helped me is actually like, going through hard stuff, like setting goals, sticking to a plan, just like the basic stuff that you hear in books like Mastery by Robert Greene, or like the compound effect. Like these things are, I believe, like actual laws that exist in nature. It's like if you actually trust in the process of doing 1% every day over 365 days of doing that 1% or even 1.5% every day, that compounds incredibly over time. And there's something to say about that consistency. And now, if I'm looking at like in 2024, like looking at the art community right now, there's a lot of people that are kind of down. Like it seems like the vibes are down, especially with all these layoffs and the advent of AI and all these new advancements. It's getting people pretty pessimistic from my experience, even people that are still employed. So I believe like in these times, and we've talked about it too, Dom, like right now is the time to actually hunker down and to really like improve, like, and to not let the negativity sway you away from your pursuits. Because like and this is me like speaking from experience. Like I said in the beginning, I graduated into a pandemic. I had loans. Everything was uncertain. It's like one of those times where it's like, damn, did I choose like the wrong industry? Like, did I really like fuck up? Like, I don't know if I could cuss on here, guys. I'm sorry, but
bro,
don't worry about it.
Holy
okay,
fuck,
good.
You fucking can do it. Don't worry. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
I feel like these times, these moments where shit happens, these are the real tests. This is what you truly show your colors. This is where you're being tested. You know? It's like, think of any good story. It wouldn't be anything without a conflict, without some friction, some resistance in the middle, an obstacle to overcome. There would be no story. So it's easy to say for you, Adrian, because it's always the same thing, right? Like, it's easy for you guys to say that because you're already sad, you're good. But for the people who are starting out right now and just picking up art and stuff, and they're facing this kind of metaphorical wall, right? Like, oh shit, I think we've been led down the wrong pathway with this career choice, because there's nothing here, guys. AI is going to steal our jobs. It's going to do everything. We barely got in. We're not even getting hired yet, and we're already failing. Like, what? And I'm like, no, you're already failing when you're thinking that way.
Yeah.
And also, there's something to be said that, like, the whole thinking of you're already set, that doesn't exist,
No,
like, you're never already set, dude.
But it's
you can be like in a good moment of your life, right?
Of course,
you can be like going through like a good patch, but if you don't keep like improving and working on yourself and learning new things and trying your best, like, it's super easy to fall off, like, and let's say fuck up with a big client or whatever, they never hire you again, and they were the guys that were actually like keeping you up financially. Like, you need to pick back up and basically like start over, because for as much as you can have consistent work with like great clients or whatever, like, we are one little piece of a like huge industry. Like, we are not that well known. Not everyone, like, it's not that easy to just like look to the other side and there's like 100 clients waiting for you. Maybe, like, I do believe that there are people that are like that, like super well known, super experienced, and maybe like 30 years experience in the industry. They know practically everyone and everyone knows them. But I'm not sure about you guys. I'm for sure not in that position. I'm still in the position where I need to try every day and learn new things every day. Otherwise, I feel like if let's imagine that, like, all of a sudden all clients stop working with me, right? Like, if that happens, I'll probably take a while, maybe like a couple of months or whatever, to get that thing going again. Like, to reach out to people, to see if there's anyone interested, and basically, I feel like it would be starting over from scratch. Yeah, we do know some people, again. Right? Yeah, they won again. But we are, of course, that you make contacts and you get to know a lot of people while in the industry.
You count on the tools you've been gathering so far and the experience and everything. So it's day
one.
But
even then,
slight, But it's
but even then, like, if you went to school, look, if you went to school, you do have the same contacts. It's just that they are in a different place in their lives and different moment of their lives, right? That's the only difference that I see between like what we go through and what students go through.
Yeah, I relate to that actually pretty deeply, because I wasn't a part of the layoffs this year, but last year in October. So I guess I was part of like the first layoffs that happened. But you're talking about like getting into the motion of like doing stuff again. I guess, like, for me, that's like making portfolio work, like having a presence online, and like that type of stuff really helped me, especially when I was looking for work, is like actually consistently posting, like networking with people, but in a genuine way, where I was like reaching out to people I was like genuinely curious about, like learning about or learning from, in like a humbling way too. It's just like, I want to learn from you. Like, I don't want anything from you. I just want your knowledge. But yeah, like when I was working, the last job I was at Youre Labs, I feel like I got complacent in my own in my own work, in my personal work, which now I'm looking back in hindsight, it's like that was the most important thing, was actually developing personal work, a brand, an identity, like something that I'm pushing for myself that I own. Because at the end of the day, like when you get axed from a job, it's pretty indiscriminate. And like when you, like if you guys have ever been through a layoff, like it's like you understand that you are just an asset and a number to a company at that point. And everything's like technical too. Like your Slack gets canceled, you get logged off, you can't even say goodbye to some people at work. And that's just the harsh reality of this, like this business. And it's just a business in general. It's just how like capitalism works. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just, this is just how it works. This is how businesses are. But yeah,
that's
I
just
think
your capability to put yourself in the spot of the business owner in a way, right? Like to understand it from that perspective, like, okay, I get it. Like it sucks for me because I'm being laid off, but from your point of view, I understand it as well. Still, it doesn't make it any better for you. You're the one being laid off.
No.
But being able to comprehend that, it kind of gives you a much wider perspective on things, I guess. And perhaps it also enables you to make better decisions to keep moving forward.
Oh yeah, and you start to have more of a perspective too. Like I think like a lot of people get tied up, like their identities become intertwined with the studios they work at. Becomes almost like cult-like in a way.
It's a big no.
Yeah,
always. Separate yourself.
yeah. You need, exactly. That's what I was getting at. Is like there should be some separation between you and the studios you work for. Unless you own that studio, then I get it. Like that is your baby.
It becomes a reflection of you in a way, like your brand, your I don't know, your personality is somehow embedded in the culture of the studio at some point, at some degree. Not always, but it's usually the case.
Yeah, and with studios, like you can have some ownership through equity or RSUs, but those don't always pan out. And we've seen it with people getting laid off and screwed over. Like I know a lot of people that were laid off a month before their reserve stock units were going to be vested. And that's just like, honestly, I think that's an unethical thing to be doing in business anyways. But yeah, like to have ownership of like your work, it has to be your work. Like it has to be like your IP. It has to be like the stuff in your portfolio that you have custody over, not Jinx's rocket weapon that you designed for something in Teamfight Tactics, or props that you might have designed that you put a lot of love in, and you actually took a lot of the research you took from real life and your experiences and put it into that asset, but now it's owned by Riot Games or whoever,
Right.
And that's a big realization I've had like this last like couple of years. It's like, oh wait, like the real path is actually just making your own stuff, like, or having that going on in the background. Not saying that you shouldn't be an industry artist.
I don't have the time, Taylor. I just get home. I get home from work and I'm tired, bro. I just want to chill and
What do you think about that?
play some games.
I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm speaking from the perspective of someone who doesn't have kids, who doesn't have a wife. I have a girlfriend, but I don't have crazy responsibilities. So for myself, there's always time. Like I know that if I'm making that excuse of not having time, I know that I'm bullshitting myself. I know that I can squeeze in an extra 30 minutes to an hour somehow. It's just like me not being efficient. And that's like one thing I always try to tell my students in school is like, I'd have excuses like I couldn't finish this. My other classes are like too demanding. It's like, okay, like you need to do an audit of your time. Like you actually need to sit down and do like an audit, like actually see how much time you're spending every day. Like on your phone, you should be able to see how much time you're spending like on TikTok, on Reels, on Instagram.
I don't think
like, actually break that down.
I don't think people understand how much we can overestimate our time. Not sure how to put this, but like you think you have more time than you actually do. I'll do it later, oh, it's fine. And then you take blocks of like 1 hour and a half and 2 hours and this and that. And then you're suddenly at midnight, you're tired and you just want to go and you still haven't done the very thing you set up to do in the first place. So I would say like exactly what you're saying here, like just plan ahead, just analyze the structure of your day, see where you fail, see which things are kind of like not really necessary, remove those, replace them with some other thing, and then follow that very structure you designed for yourself. Don't go like, but I don't feel like it right now. I'm kind of like, I'm craving some this, I'm craving some that. Like, no, bro, you wrote that. Do it now. Execute your own plan.
Yep. And you know what you're saying, Adrian, is like very simple and actually like pretty straightforward. But to actually do that day in and day out, it takes some discipline and willpower to get through that. And I think that's the hardest part for people, is actually like the part of like the doing it. Like, and
that's the first step.
You know,
the hardest
that's the first step
to get started. Do that first. Yeah, the first day is the hardest one, right? Because I'll start tomorrow. No, next week.
Yep.
No, next month.
There's always tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow is it's always available to you. Yeah.
But if you make that today, then you will count on the evidence, the hard proof that I've done this before. I've done this. I did it yesterday. I should do it again now. So that's how you build this momentum. And soon enough, you see yourself on this path that you just don't want to abandon anymore. You want to keep going, keep exploring, see how far you can take it. So I encourage people to kind of just get started, man. Like,
there's also something
way
to
more
be said about like how little you can do and still make a difference. Because people want to go like from 0 to 100, and that's what like makes them stop. Because if you go from 0 to 100, like the first day, like will kill you. Like you get super tired. Yeah, exactly.
You feel there's no impact. If I do so little, like I change nothing. But hey, here's the trick. Just showing up, bro, does so much more in the long run.
Yeah, but like 10, 20 minutes a day, on anything. Like
simple.
You start with 20 minutes of exercise a day. And then like soon enough, okay, I can handle an hour. I can like an hour and a half. Now I'm in love with this. Like keep doing for the rest of my life. Oh, I can work on my portfolio. Yeah, I can work on my portfolio for like 30 minutes a day.
If you can't run, right? Like you're so out of shape, you can't even run. Just putting your shoes on and stepping outside without doing anything. You don't even have to walk. Just stepping outside is like it places your mind in this discipline mode where you learn that it's time to go out. Like I've been here before. So I've been here yesterday. Today, I might as well just try to take a few steps. And it's very slow in the beginning, but in the long run, bro, it's kind of like exponential in a way, right? Because you pick up that momentum. Taylor, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about your journey on this, because I've been told you've been on this big change of mentality and like lifestyle and stuff like that lately. So I'm really intrigued by how you navigated through that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, on the topic of exercise, that's been helping me a shit ton. Like, I reached out to Dom about 2 months ago. I was like, dude, we need to get together and like work out or something. Like, need to actually like start moving around, because like I'd gotten to a point, and this goes back to my job that I lost in October. Like I don't think it was good for me. Like I learned a lot, I met cool people, but in my own personal life, I feel like it made me complacent. I got used to the paychecks. It's like I'm safe here, and that wasn't good for me. So getting back into working out, and honestly, starting from square one with Dom, like he can tell you, dude, like the first day we started working out, I was weak. Like I was like super weak. I didn't have as much strength as I do now, but it's only been 2 months, like a little bit over 2 months, and I'm already seeing improvement. And I really do think like anyone who's watching this podcast, like, is to take away from like do things outside of art, especially like exercise, go on a hike, like move your body. Like you don't understand like how much you can improve in other areas of your life if you actually start exercising and moving your body. And that'll also just tell your mind too, like you need to be eating healthier food. Like you can't exercise with strength if you're eating bullshit all the time too. So for me, I don't know.
That's cringe, Taylor.
Yeah. Hey, you know what the problem I think is with that people usually, when you say do some exercise or eat healthy,
I know.
People associated with complicated, complex, whatever you want to throw in there, exercises at the gym, or it's like extra steps, right? Then healthy food, like, I have to cook that myself, or I have to go buy the groceries myself, the ingredient. I don't know any of that. I don't have the knowledge. I don't know. I can't. I don't have time to study any of this. But guess what?
So
I
simple.
think that you make the
is.
time for whatever you truly want to accomplish. So if you want to
Mhm.
learn more about nutrition, the internet is your friend probably. You know, you can just Google
Yeah.
everything and learn
To
from
keep
the
it in
most.
basic terms, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just meat and veggies. That's it. That's all you need.
Dude, it's not
Yeah.
that hard to learn about macros, you know. That's
Yeah.
all. Like, and to calculate them,
Yeah.
it's even easier, right? Like, I know we are not all mathematicians, you know. Like, we're not doing like complex calculations. It's literally super easy to do that, and I feel like one thing feeds the other, right? Like, if you're exercising, you don't want to f up your diet because then, like, oh, I did my exercise for nothing. And then if you're eating healthy, you're like, okay, I'm fueling myself to be able to like push even more on the next workout. So
Mhm.
it's this like vicious cycle in a good sense, right? That uh, kind of makes you more. I won't say like more powerful in a sense because it kind of gives you energy to tackle any other thing, right? Because you're like, okay,
Mhm.
my body's healthy and ready to face any challenges. And those challenges might even be like intellectual ones on our day jobs, you know, like, oh, my mind is sharper because I'm like actually
Yeah.
feeding it good stuff. And my body, like, I can do anything. Like, it doesn't get in the way, you know? Like, I'm not,
Yeah.
I need to walk all the way over there to do something. Oh,
Yeah.
or like I'm reaching to like to draw on top of something, and then oh, my elbow hurts, oh, my shoulder hurts, oh, I can, you know, like you
Bro,
are actually
honestly,
functioning.
honestly, doing just basic chores is easier if you have like a workout regimen that's simple. Like it sounds so like ridiculous to say, and it sounds like I'm a boomer saying it, but yeah, like just doing like your chores is easier. But also like one of the biggest things that I've gotten from it so far, and it's only been 2 months, is just like, yeah, the mindset, also just having endurance to just do art. Like it sounds ridiculous to sit down and do art, like having more endurance just to get through whatever you need to be making. It's like easier. And I think exercise helps out with that. Like, but yeah.
I
Would you
remember the
guys?
first day.
Oh,
Yeah. I was just saying, like, yeah, I made Taylor do like 10 push ups on the first day. And I remember him struggling to get through it. And now he's just doing like 24 push ups. It's flat out easy.
holy shit!
Like,
See, that's progress right there.
gain like
That's what
so
I
much
was
strength.
talking about, the exponential thing. Like
Yeah.
your workout today used to be your warm up today used to be your workout back then.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's only 2 months too. So,
But isn't
like
that
it's
impressive? Like at a mindset level, like how impressive it is to realize how far you've gotten in such a short amount of time just because you showed up. And even if you don't feel like
exactly.
it
Yeah.
on that day, just by showing up, you're already putting yourself forward in a position where you stand a chance to kind of win that day no matter how you felt. Like, it's a
Yeah.
sad day or I'm tired today, but fuck it. Now that I'm here, I might as well just try, you know? So I'll
Yeah.
try 5 push-ups and then you get pumped, you know, and you get yourself going. The more you do, the more you want to do. And would you guys agree with the fact that this might be dependent on time, on the factor of time, like the whole experiment thing with diet or exercise, or just let's say you want to accomplish X and you set yourself up to do that, but you know it's going to take time, right? And I'm drawing a line as a connection between this dot and the dot of how we've been conditioned in our modern times to have shorter attention spans and expect things immediately and be more impatient and just desire this overnight success. Otherwise, we don't even try. If it doesn't work until tomorrow, like if I don't get big by tomorrow, I'm not even going to try. You know, stuff like that. I know it sounds quite extreme and like what, but it's how I feel most of us
No,
have approached a lot of things. And fortunately not here in the circle anymore because we've been finding what's on the other side and we understand that there's a process that takes time and dedication and you show up every day and then magic happens. Well, magic in the eyes of other people because that's where the mysticism of the, you know, the process and everything. People don't get to see how hard you've been working on something until the very end when you show the results, and then they freak out. Then they go like, lucky. Not lucky. No, not lucky. Been
there's
working at this.
I do think the time thing, there's something to be said that it's even affecting the people that are already on the journey of like fitness and self-improvement. That's why like steroids are pretty much becoming the new like recreational drug of choice, because people are using them like to get the shortcut.
Okay. So
I mean,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I always thought that was like a reflection of the amount of dedication. Like, now that I'm so much into this, I'm gonna actually expand on my tools and reach out for certain other, like the steroids.
I mean, you can see it that way, right? Like, I want to achieve a new like.
I was associating it to the word pro, in a way. You know what I mean?
I understand, but look, the thing about them is that it's a trade-off, right? You're actually like changing health for aesthetic look. It's literally that simple, you know? Mm-hmm. So for someone who doesn't, if you are a pro athlete and you want to compete and you want to live off of that, like, that's all fine with me. You are actually sacrificing your health for that. It's your career, your choice, whatever, right? But what I see more often than not is people that are just like regular people that want to get in shape and like don't want to worry too much about the other aspects of it. Don't want to like get into a diet. They just want to look hot for Instagram, you know? Mm-hmm. Dude, I think that it's, look, unless you are actually going to compete where that's actually needed, right, for you to succeed. Most people want to take it to look like what you can look just being a regular natural guy that works out, and like they just want a six pack, you know, they don't want to get huge. It's one of the things that you hear most often than not on the gym, you know, like, oh, I want to work out, but I don't want to get huge, as if that's something that happens accidentally, you know, like, oh, you're going to trip off of a barbell, and then all of a sudden your traps are gigantic. Like, it's not how that works, you know. But no, I do think it's the same thing that we see on like everything, right? This whole, oh, I want it as fast as possible for yesterday. And especially like one of the things that is the worst aspect of it, I think, is to show other people that I have that. So it's not necessarily that I want to be capable of doing things. It's that I want people to see that I am capable of doing things. So it's not really, as an example, right? I go to the gym. I know a lot of guys over there that don't ever post anything because they're there because they like to do it, you know? It's like, oh, I want to lift heavier because I want to prove to myself and maybe to the guys over there that are like working out with me that we can do that. And we see progress, right? But it's not like I want to, like, as soon as I'm done. But it's like as soon as I'm done, I'll post to the internet, and then like people will praise me for it. So next time that I post it, I need to like be able to lift even like, I don't know, 20 pounds more.
Then
you know,
you do the association, and you become dependent on that, on craving that validation from a third party perspective, right?
Yeah. They stop doing it after they posted it,
and that's how you end up with people who are like at the gym and they look around to see if someone's watching them, and as soon as they kind of confirm that someone's watching, they start lifting. That's ridiculous, right? Like, why do you go to the gym in the first place? To have some public,
but
some crowd
the whole
watching
point,
you? Like, it's not. And I'm glad you brought up this point, because that's precisely the muscle that I feel a lot of people don't get to train ever, like a metaphorical muscle, right? The muscle of, can you shut up about what you're doing, not tell anyone anything about it, and still be working at it without them knowing ever, right? Because I feel like
you are doing that for yourself. That's the thing.
Yeah,
like whatever you do, like honestly, people need to understand that no one cares. No one gives a fuck about you. Right. You know, like you need to do this for yourself. Yeah, people will like your picture. No one that likes your picture, other than like maybe your family and a couple of your friends, gives a damn if you'll post tomorrow or not. You know, like it should be like a little bit humbling. Like, okay, we like between all of us here, we like each other's art, right? We want to see what each other posts. But let's say, Dom, I'm gonna use you as an example, right? You have, I don't know, because you're probably the biggest following here, like that. I don't know, 100K followers or whatever you are at right now. And out of all of those people, right? How many are actually close to you and actually care about you as a human being, right? Like,
Yeah.
I understand that you have a big
Probably
following.
0.5 maybe.
Yeah, but it's like, it's good that you have that, right? It's good for your personal brand. It's good in like work sense, like a professional sense. But it shouldn't affect your decision making as a human being, what you do on a day-to-day basis. Like,
No, of
if you
course
get
not.
less likes tomorrow,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that you'll still wake up and do your painting. I'm pretty sure that it will not
You'll never
change
see me
how you
complain
act on
about the algorithm on
You don't
social
depend on
media.
that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be complaining about nothing about likes or comments or whatever. I'm just
Because you're not
putting the
making
work.
that decision for them. Like, you're actually making the decisions on what you do on a day-to-day basis for yourself.
And I think
like,
that's
what's
the
good for
most
you.
liberating thing you can do,
Mhm.
because then you become free from all that made up obligation to satisfy a crowd or something like that. You start working on things for yourself, like exactly what Taylor started this episode with. Like, bro, work on stuff for your portfolio, like stuff you want to do, because in the end,
Yeah.
that's what you're going to be hired for, right? So if you, that's some conversation I recently had with someone. I think it was on this server actually, but I don't remember exactly. The conversation was like, careful what you put on your portfolio, because you're going to be hired to do just that. So if you're just crafting a portfolio based on something you think is expected from you, like, and you don't enjoy doing that, then get ready, because there's going to be a shit ton of jobs for you waiting to get you hired and do that thing you showed on your portfolio, which just happens to be stuff you don't really care about. So the end result is like an unhappy, unfulfilled type of job. Like, fuck, I shouldn't have put that on my portfolio. Now all the jobs I'm getting, like all the offers and stuff, are based on that. Which, simple example, illustration or concept design stuff, right? If you do a lot of illustration, you put it there, but you're an aspiring concept artist. This is me right here, right? This is kind of like my story. I was like working on a lot of illustration stuff and trying to figure out the difference. Like, but this is this concept art thing. It's also an illustration. It doesn't make any sense. Like, what's the difference? So I was making that, and then I started to get hired for illustration jobs, and I was tired of it. I was like, bro, I just want a concept art gig. Like, why can't I get one? And of course, if you look at the portfolio I had back then, there was no concept art thing. Like, this guy, I'm not seeing any process, thinking process, any concepts, any sketches, any of that. Most of the end result is always like an illustration, a final, polished, very fine illustration, right? So that's what I would advise to the ones watching this that are trying to craft like a brand new portfolio or revamp their portfolio and stuff. Like, start with your why, start with your goal. Like, what's your desired job? Like, if you're a generalist and you like everything, so be it, man. Include everything, creatures, characters, whatever. It's going to get tougher, but maybe in the long run it's going to pay off. But if you're just into, let's say, dragons and that's it, then put a lot of dragons in your portfolio. Now, when I say a lot of dragons, don't take that out of context. I know you shouldn't flood your portfolio with like 100 pieces of dragons, but there's not a magic number. And I don't know what you guys think about this, but I've heard it a lot. Like some people say, oh, just 5 pieces in your portfolio should be fine. Some people say, oh, 30 to 35 should be fine. It's a broad range, right, of difference. So I really think that the sweet spot relies entirely on you. Like, you decide how many you want to put in there. If you prioritize quality over quantity, that's up to you. If you prioritize the opposite, that's fine
But
too.
also, like, what are you going to do? Oh, I think that 5 is my number.
Yeah, like,
you'll
it's
do
not
5
like-
and then you'll stop. Like,
it's not
what
like
are you
you
going
come
to
up with a
do?
number.
It's over. I'm a master now.
I think that's fine. I think they'll like it this way. This way is how I'm going to get hired. No, it doesn't work that way. You just do stuff, put it out there, reach out into the universe, and people kind of connect back to you, and you make those connections and contacts, and it just happens, man. And I've always felt
But
like
I am
the wrong person to ask about any of this, because somehow I see my journey as a very organic one. Like I almost like I didn't plan any of this. I was just doing my thing and exploring the world and just what I like.
Yeah, I am curious though. Like, we are talking about this hypothetical thing, right? Like, oh, what do you do to get another job? But you actually like went through this couple of months now, Taylor. So like you were laid off, and then like you started this self-improvement journey.
So I got
Walk
laid
us
off,
through
and
this.
I went through a massive
Like-
vacation.
I want to understand like what the timeline is over there, because you also said to us that I'm focusing on like teaching and like making learning more accessible to students and all of that, and while doing that also working on your personal things. So I want to understand like what the link between all of those things.
Because he's not just
is,
chilling,
basically.
right? He's not just like, I don't have a job anymore, but I'm fine. I made my bag. Like, I can now just, indulge in some degenerate stuff and like just, no, the guy's like,
Taylor's
I mean, there is a couple of months between that and him reaching out to Dom. So let's not assume that
There's probably a couple of months of degeneracy, honestly.
Right.
Not degeneracy, but
you had your fair share of fun too, right? Before the storm. But let's say you're taking this chance to actually recalibrate and improve before the next big game, right? So you're training essentially in every realm of existence, like physically, mentally, in the art realm, professional, personal, everything. Tell us a little bit about that.
We've been discussing about that. Yeah. So what are you doing?
It's been kind of, I'm just taking it more of like an organic approach, like you'd mentioned, like not really worrying about having everything in my portfolio to get, a specific type of job. But yeah, like after I got laid off, it was like October, and I was like, I'm just gonna chill till like December, January, and then I'm gonna probably start figuring stuff out. But I wish I was retired. I wish that job retired me to where I could just like do nothing or just do plein air painting all day. But there's a reality to living. Like, you have bills, you got to pay them. Eventually you got to start getting steady work one way or another. But my focus has been and I've just been talking about this, just wanting to do more mentorships, wanting to teach more. And like, the more I talk about that to my friends, like the more those opportunities kind of pop up. But as far as like personal work goes, just focusing on like going through that VR process, like trying to explore a little bit more, taking the skills that I learned in the past and applying it in my own vision. This last job I actually had a couple of thoughts like closer to the end where I wanted to kind of quit and do my own thing already. And getting laid off was kind of like a blessing in disguise in a way. It's like kind of gave me permission to actually like do the stuff that I wanted to do, which is what I'm doing right now. It's like exploring different.
So I guess you just like tossed it out to the universe and they gave you what you wanted.
That's exactly
a part of it is, it's like, it's kind of trusting the process. And it's like the stuff that I'm doing right now. I don't care if it gets like, I don't care if it goes viral. It's like more of me just like sharing stuff and finding the people that might actually want to connect with whatever I'm sharing. That's really my goal. But yeah, it's like, I'm just going to do what I want to do and try to do it as best as I can. And we'll see what happens from there. I mean,
with no
obviously I'm gonna
right. Like, you're basically
exactly. Yeah. That's the thing.
Big expectations. Like, I'm only doing this, but I better make this land somewhere. Like, no, it's just, I love doing this.
Just doing you.
Yeah.
Authentic.
Holy shit. Yeah. I'm glad you guys said that, because like, that's another thing about like setting goals for yourself too, is like, you can be very, very disappointed by the ambition of your goals sometimes. Because if you're very ambitious and you have goals you have high expectations for them, it's probably going to take a little while, but you're going to find success along the way. So it's just like, don't have a high expectation for anything, but be ambitious about it and just pursue it. Eventually things will come your way. And sometimes you get opportunities that aren't even like what you expected, and it's actually better for you. Like, I was actually talking to a buddy about this yesterday, and he was like, yeah, I got hired at this one studio, but I wanted to work for Bungie. And like, I just showed my work. I just started to do like March of Robots is like a challenge on Instagram, and it blew up for him. And he ended up getting like his dream job, where that's exactly what he's doing. He's just doing like sketches and exactly what he would be doing in his own time, but for a company. And it's like, he didn't really want to be working at that company, like when he first started like doing the sketches. But it's like, sometimes the unexpected is usually like the best thing for you. So yeah, going into things without expectations, I think, is liberating in a way. but you have to be putting in the work.
Once again, that's one more proof that there's no single way, single approach, single secret formula to get a job or to be successful in anything. Like there's thousands of ways. You really have to play the game in creative mode, man.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I feel like the hungrier you are, the more you play that mode, because it forces you to get creative about like different solutions to your problems and everything. And when you're like in a state of satisfaction, let's say, like you're fed, right? You're good. Like you don't have a reason to keep moving, to keep pushing, to keep climbing that mountain. And you know what they say, that saying about the wolf climbing the mountain is always going to be hungrier than the wolf that's already at the top. So it's always going to keep pushing. It's always going to keep, just moving. And yeah, it's an interesting journey, man. It's a really interesting journey. I really like how there's no cemented version of how you, like, there's not a guidebook to how to live life or how to land a job or it's literally up to you and your imagination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like tools, there's books that you can read, and there's like different things that you can apply to your own life. But to live your own life, you have to cater it to exactly what you want to do. And that takes a lot of introspection. It takes a lot of like literally looking at yourself like logically and seeing like where you can improve or like what's going on. Like,
and there's always a risk, right? Because of
there's always a risk
it's
too.
The time factor I mentioned earlier, because hey, I want to try this, but I'm not sure. It's going to take me probably a month to see any result. Do I want to waste a month?
Right.
What if it doesn't work? So it's always that fear. But if you remove that, if you had no fear, if you had unlimited, like you guys remember that episode with Christian about the $1 billion question? What would you do if you had $1 billion? Right? Would you still be doing this?
Yeah.
And everybody was like, yeah, of course. But you never know until you have it, until you can get to do that, right? And I would just encourage people to make those decisions with no fear and just see what happens. Like, you're not gonna die. You're not gonna think about it logically. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen if you decide to speak to this person now or apply for this job now? There's a lot of people even hesitant to do that because it's like, oh, I only have one shot. If I mess it up and they don't like my work, they'll never hire me again. What? Dude.
Yeah, that's actually how it works, you know? Like, you have a list of names that you'll never hire ever again.
Yeah. Okay.
And you just keep adding to it.
We don't like his work. Never again.
Yeah, I do think that there's a bigger risk by not trying, though. I think that's the unforeseen risk, is not trying. Because the more you try, the more you put yourself out there, you take chances. I mean, you're gonna fail. It's inevitable. It's just a part of like getting better at doing anything. Like, but it's just a part of the process. Like, you might fail 90% of the time, but that 10% is just gonna be potentially life-changing. So like, why are you waiting? Like, why?
Don't you think that
you just need to work out once, you know? Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to get all of the jobs that you apply for. One of them, like, if you apply to 100, like, only one needs to work. You know, only one needs to get like you into the door and all that. So
one yes is more powerful than 1,000 no's.
Yeah,
I am curious about, like, we are talking a lot about.
Sorry, that's interesting what he just said, because I've always thought it was the opposite. You know, like one no is more powerful than 1,000 yeses. Like the power of that dislike, right? It's how you used to think about it. Like, you have 999 likes on your video, bro. Why do you care about that single dislike? But it's there, you know, there's someone out there dislikes my video. Like, negative energy has that impact, right?
Yeah. Sorry, like negativity bias.
Yeah, so if you know it's that
but
powerful,
that's because we are psychologically, like, we care more about the negatives because they have more impact, right? Like, you can only get so happy, but like on the negative side, you can actually die. So that's why we pay more attention to the negative stuff.
To that point, I also see the opposite, which is what Taylor said. You know, the power of 999 likes and dislikes and one like, right? It has the same effect. Like, you expect everyone to dislike this anyway. So to see one like becomes a huge surprise. Like, yo, someone likes it, you know? So it turns off that switch. It turns it on rather. And it motivates you. That might be the first step, you know? Like showing up at an event that you know you're going to fail at. Like let's say, like we said earlier, right? You're out of shape, you're attempting your first workout, and you show up with no expectations. You don't think you can do it, but let's say you manage to actually do a little more than you expected. That's the same vibe, the same, yo, that's possible.
And then
Like
you
I can
see
do this.
the weight
Mhm.
decrease or the weight
Yes.
drop, and you're like,
Little
oh
hints,
shit,
little
Mhm.
working.
signs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It
then
makes
you
you
want to keep
believe.
going more and more.
You guys realize how important the belief is, right? Like I don't care if it's true or not, but if you believe that it's possible, it helps you to get there. Rather than if you believe, this is not going to work, this is not going to work. What do you think is going to happen if you keep feeding those thoughts constantly to your mind? You know, your body listens eventually, and it's like, you
Mhm.
know what? He might be right. Let's fucking stop. We're
You
not
know,
even going to try.
I was watching Dr. K one of these days. He was in a podcast with that other Dr. Mike guy, and they were mentioning the placebo effect and that it works even if the person knows that it's a placebo. Like if you tell them, "Hey, this is a placebo. It has nothing on it, but
That
it
is
will
so
work."
wild.
If the
That
person
is so
believes in it,
crazy.
it works. So
Mhm.
like that's how powerful believing is, you know. And if you're making your artwork believing that, okay, this will give me like the job, okay, this is what I have to do, of course that it needs to be in alignment
Of
with what
course.
you want in
It's a
life,
fine
right?
line
Like
between
there's
that and delusion, right?
yeah, exactly.
I was gonna
But
say there's like a power in delusion, but yeah, there's like a balance between like reality and that as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you also need that belief to apply to things, right? Like you need to believe that it's possible to the worst thing that can actually, like the worst thing is full on rejection. No one even cares like what you do, and then that's simply not getting an answer, which might be hard for you on the receiving end, but it's also like how hard it is to be ghosted, right? Like it would be way worse if they actually come after you, like telling you a bunch of shit. So getting ghosted is not really that bad, right? But then even if you get rejected, there's a slight chance, because that's what happened to me, and also happened to Dom Jaro when he was here. Like he told us that, like people give you feedback on why you got rejected, and that's kind of like a gem, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is pointing me in the right direction. So
Exactly.
it's worthwhile the risk either way, because there's three possibilities, right? Like you can get rejected with nothing, you can get rejected with like a hint of what you need to get better at, or you can get lucky and hired, you know? Or like, oh, is it that bad? Like what will happen if any of those happen? Think about it, right? Like you will wake up tomorrow and have to work either way. So I don't know, man. I feel like people that get fearful of trying, they're already lost. Like that's kind of how I see it. It's not even worthwhile for you to keep going if you think that that's the hard part, you know.
Then why
We're
are you
seeing
here?
like
Right.
yeah, we're seeing a whole bunch of doomers out here in the
So
art community.
you guys see how that comes from a lack of
It's true.
motivation, not motivation in the sense like I need motivation to get things going, but like your reason, your why are you here? Why do you wake up every day? What do you expect from today, for instance? You know, like what's going to make it different? So when you have no clear sense or purpose or whatever, you kind of become a little irritated with yourself, a little frustrated. Like all you see is people making it and you're not. And it's funny when you realize that you are that purpose. Like, what's the purpose? You are the purpose, bro. I know it sounds generic and like, I don't know what to call it, but it really is. Like, what do you think you're here for? To experience the best version of yourself, to experience the whole range of ups and downs in life. You're going to win and you're going to lose. You're going to feel like shit. You're going to feel like you're on top of the world. And that's fine. That's all part of it. I don't understand why people try to avoid, I mean, I do understand why they try to avoid pain and suffering and all that stuff, because it's ugly. It's not pleasant. It's not nice to feel that. But you can't just remove a part of the duality equation of life, right? Where there's night, there's day, there's life, there's death, there's black and white, there's everything has an opposite. And you can't have one without the other. In fact, you do. But when that happens, imbalance happens and ugly shit goes down. Like it's just not natural. So I know this is basic shit what I'm talking here, but it escapes most people's logic for some reason. Like, hey, I want to get in shape, but I don't want to go through the process. Hey, I want to land a job, but I don't want to practice. I don't want to get good at what that job requires. Like, then why do you expect to win? If you're not willing to run the race, how can you demand and claim that medal or that trophy at the very end? That's not how it works, right? So,
and also it's a moving goalpost, right? Like,
is the what?
Don't ever assume it's a moving goalpost. Like, don't ever assume that you will be like satisfied, right? As an example, you are doing like 25 push-ups now. I bet you want to get to 50 or whatever. Like,
we're gonna go to 90.
Whoa.
So each week we're incrementing it by 2, and yeah.
But that's the thing, right? Like you didn't like start it by saying, okay, at 25 I'll stop. I'm happy. That's cool. I'll get there. And that's like, okay, I reached it. I can quit. That's not how it happens, right? Oh, I got the job that I wanted. Oh, then you realize, there is actually not a dream job, right?
Yeah.
Like for as much as you love that job, it doesn't fulfill you in a like individual sense, right? Oh, I'm contributing to this nice project that I like, and I have my name on the credits or whatever you want, but you still want that personal project. You still want that like your voice to be unique somehow, and to have an outlet for that. And I feel like people also don't realize that, right? That they go after this like this title or this name or this
the label,
position.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, they go
So
for the
relatable.
label. Exactly.
I want to be a concept artist. I want to see that everywhere, my bio, my email, everything. And then when you get there, you realize there's so much more than that.
Yeah. I think that's why Christian's $10 billion question is actually like really important to ask yourself, because it kind of puts all that type of stuff in perspective. Because like, a lot of people, they want to get the job, they want to make the money, and they think that they're going to have it made like once they get their dream title or whatever. But that, it doesn't exist. It's an illusion. The moving goalpost keeps moving. And that's like one thing you'll understand once you go down a path of mastery, is that it never ends. But you have to be satisfied in that process of things never ending, but you going on this never ending journey. That's a self-improvement journey. And also you get to a point where you can start helping others like you guys are doing right now. I'm sure some of you guys are in like lead positions where you're helping out younger artists, or you're even teaching. What you guys are doing with the podcast, it's like you guys have already had a glimpse of like the path of mastery, and now you're giving back. But it never ends. Like I know some people at like, principal positions, and their jobs are nice. They're getting cushy paychecks, but at the end of the day, it's like, I know they want to be making their own stuff. I know they want to have their own Patreon. I know they want to, have their booth at Lightbox, or even goals above that. Like at a certain point, like you want to have kids and a family. And I know the people that have kids care more about that. They just want more freedom to spend time with their kids. And that goalpost, the goalpost changes too. It morphs and it evolves. Like,
it's both relieving and terrifying at the same time, to realize that none of this is forever. None of this is going to last forever. Like, not the good, not the bad. So whenever you find yourself in a bad situation or anything like that, like what I usually tell myself is like, bro, this is temporary anyway. So just endure a little more and we'll get out of it. Same story with the good stuff, right? Like, hey, enjoy it while it lasts, because this ain't going to last forever. And
the shall too pass.
Yeah. And in a way, that's fine, because that's how I see the natural cycle, of things in general. Like, it's a growth and decay and growth and decay, and you constantly go through the same cycles over time. and you see the same patterns repeat themselves and extrapolate over so many other entirely unrelated topics or areas of life, but they follow the same patterns. And you always
Yeah.
feel like, I've been here before, like I know what follows next. So that's why you feel that sort of insecurity and fear and panic mode in the very beginning, because you've never been there before. You don't know what's happening. You don't have that experience. So of course you're under this pressure of all the uncertainty, not knowing exactly how this is going to go down. But then when you're kind of like far more experienced and you've been there several times, you can kind of guess that the sun might come out one more day, right? Like it's been happening for years now. Why not tomorrow? So yeah. And there's something I wanted to say about like something you said about, I think it was the push-ups actually, but it's a funny example because it can really work for anything. So when you set up a goal, let's say you can't do a single push-up, right? Your max would be, I don't know, 5. That would be a good goal, I guess. Or maybe 1 would be a nice way to start. Like if I can just do 1 push-up. So notice the difference when you set up 5 push-ups as your max rep goal versus some disorbitant kind of some crazy number like 20 for you in the beginning, right? Like, bro, you can't even do 1. Shut up. How are you going to do 20? Like, I'll do 20 one day, Still, when you aim that high, you're going to land somewhere way higher than if you aimed lower and landed. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to do 5 and you do 5, you get to 5 and you're like, I did it. You aim at 20 and you do 12. You're like, fuck, I failed. You still end up doing so much more than if you aimed so much lower in the first example. And that's where the power of like this ambition thing you mentioned before comes into the game, because I think it really makes a difference to not be scared to be ambitious and to not let your voice be drowned because of the opinions of other people around you who don't believe in the same thing you're believing in. I know you see Andrea smiling, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say about this.
No, it's because, okay, so who here, like, it's the crazy dreaming guy, like, on your own family, right? Like, I know that in my family, I'm the guy that when I was a kid, used to be like, oh, I want to do this and I'll be working on that and whatever. Or like, I'll be big, guys, you'll know. And like, no one gives a shit, right? No one's like, okay, cool, nice, go,
sure
you are. And
go draw your sketchbook, boy.
pretty much, right?
Yeah.
And it's like the idea that it happens like on a bunch of different stories and religions as well. Like the idea that all you need to do is ask, right? Like that if you want something, like you just need to ask for it. And of course that asking is a metaphor for actually like doing the work and going after it and all of that.
But it's the idea. You're putting the idea out there somehow.
Yeah, exactly. And also like if you want it, you can actually make it. Like that's the thing, right? There's no impossible thing that you can't achieve, right? Okay, let's be like pragmatic here. Of course, there are things that are impossible to achieve.
Brother, you don't have to explain yourself. We understand what that means.
You get it, right? Like, but the whole idea is just if that like that shouldn't stop you from trying or reaching, because it's what you said, right? Like if the goal is high enough, even if you don't land it, or even if like that ends up being not what you expected.
Do you realize how that impossible word you just mentioned keeps changing over time? Like the more people break that barrier, look at this guy who ran the marathon under 2 hours, right? That was impossible before. He did it. Now a bunch of more people are going to do the same thing. Same story.
It's impossible because no one has done it yet.
So yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like the limiting.
Only takes a little longer. Isn't that what they used to say? So same story with like deep diving, I think. Like who would have thought a human body can actually go down like, I don't know, 100 and something meters, I don't know, under the surface. Like that crushing pressure of the ocean. Like that's impossible. Someone did it. Explain that.
Like David Goggins doing 7,000 pull-ups.
Oh yeah, or a human just running miles and miles and miles. These guys you see nowadays running like 200 miles and stuff like that's fucking impressive. But then you realize there's a dude in Greece like I don't know, 50 years ago or something, like
Yeah.
running like thousands of miles or some crazy shit. Like, I don't know, man, but it plays games on your mind. You go like, you can't even fathom those numbers.
Because
right?
we live in comfort
Yeah.
and we
Mm.
can't really fathom what
That's
our
what's
ancestors did in the past.
That's what's interesting about this, because you don't
Mhm.
even you can't even grasp the magnitude of what they're telling you of those achievements, because you've never been there. But when you try to do that, let's say the way we look at bodybuilding, right? It's impressive from the outside, but you don't really know exactly what goes down behind the scenes and all that stuff. You don't know what it takes to get there. Same story with art, and same story with like landing one of these big gigs in Hollywood or like the biggest titles out there or whatever. You don't know what goes down. You don't know how it is to work there, but you kind of imagine it. However, you really don't know what it feels like unless you get closer to that world and you get your foot in the door and you start working there. And then you go like, so this is it. All right. Well, now I get it. Now it's relatable. Now I can actually have a reference, for my understanding to make sense out of it. Same story with this exercise thing. Same story with anything. Until you try it, you really have no idea how that really is, right? You can try to express your understanding as much as you want. Like, yeah, that's impressive. Wow, like 100 miles, that's crazy. But when you try it, right? Because what's your reference? 10 miles? That's how much you run now? Like, that's nothing compared to that. When you try to run 12 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles, bro, the game changes entirely, because then you think, if this is so hard, I can't even imagine 100, right? What that must feel like. So the perspective totally changes the more you move, right?
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
similar to doing the 75 hard thing. 75 days, it's not too bad. But when you actually do the 75
Oh, I've been doing that.
and you're
I've been doing that so far. That's nothing. And then when you're doing it, you're like, all right.
Yeah.
Respect.
Oh shit. This is actually kicking my ass. Like a gallon of water a day is a lot of water. It's just like
crazy.
underestimating that.
Flushing your whole body out every day.
But it's the same story
Man.
that Taylor said, right? Like, you get used to it. That's your new standard now. And you keep
Yeah,
elevating
your standard
that bar.
changes.
Yeah.
And I think on that note too, Adrian, like, you're talking about these things that people intrinsically value, right? Like bodybuilders, for instance. I believe that most people respect like bodybuilders or what they've done, and it's because it's hard and not too many people can do it, and that makes it valuable. Just like the artists that we look up to as well. It's like,
Yeah, look at their work.
Jamie
right?
Jones is fucking crazy. Like, Sparth is insane. And it's like, we like their stuff, obviously, because the art is already beautiful. It's like something that we enjoy seeing in our video games. But deep down, we really appreciate that because we know how hard it is to get there. It's a finite like resource in a sense. Like, there's only so many people that can do it. Truth is, a lot of people can do it if they went through the same path and went through the same hard work that person went through. But it's valuable. We value it because it's hard to do. It's hard to attain that. Just like financial wealth, a lot of people they'll flex. They'll be driving Lambos and Gucci, like they'll be wearing Gucci, and it's like, it's a sign of value. It's a sign. It's a symbol. Yeah. It's like we intrinsically value that type of stuff because not too many people have it. It's hard to attain. Yeah. It's like
a visual
trophy
way to
in a
display
sense.
your success, right? Like the same story with our art, like that this is what I'm capable of, and you see my artwork and stuff, and you see those guys' artwork and stuff, like, yeah, that's awesome, and this is what they're capable of. Bodybuilders, their own bodies are the trophy, right? These guys, financial freedom, like Lambos, mansions and stuff. Yeah, that's their stuff, I think we all have our own.
Yeah. Skills I think trump like the financial like wealth and value we put on stuff, honestly, because even people I've met who have a lot of money, they're still not satisfied with what they've attained financially. They still want those hard to gain skills, like whether it's like health or like fitness, like being able to speak publicly, like these skills that actually take time and effort and a lot of failure to get through to attain. It's like they still want that. Like your trust fund babies still want to achieve some sort of skill or something that's
I've
valuable
recently
outside of their wealth.
I've recently heard that generational wealth is not transferred through assets, like physical stuff, money, assets like houses or cars or whatever. It's of value, but through knowledge and values, like what you've learned, you pass it down the next generation, and that's way more valuable than any of those physical assets.
Yeah, because how will they survive for
There's
themselves, like
Yeah.
the new generation?
You guys know Chris Williamson, right? The guy from Modern
Yeah.
Wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a short that I watched from him on an episode. Like he talks about the difference between what's valuable and what's just hard to get. Because you were talking about like the guys that like go out on Lambos and like those kind of like super expensive things and all of that. And he draws a difference because our default is to think that whatever is hard to get is actually valuable, right? Because that's kind of what we were talking about here. But at the end of anyone's life, like no one is like missing their Lambo, right? Like they're missing the loved ones, they're not there. They're missing like there is a little bit of a difference. It is a good like shorthand, like whatever is hard to get is valuable, but it's not always the case. And I think it can kind of like throw people on a journey to go after anything that is hard to get without actually considering if that's valuable for them or not. So
I see what you mean.
I think it's a bit tricky to just like assume that this being hard to get is the definition of valuable. I think it's a good indicator, but what will actually be valuable for you or any other person is very personal. And also like people need to question if it's valuable or not, right? And I'm saying this because of the same reason that we were talking about the job title or like the position that you want to get at. Like, why is that valuable to you? Like, what will that accomplish? Is getting your name on like a big project the actual part that is valuable to you? Because then you can find different routes to do that. Like if it's working with the people that work there, because there's also that factor, right? Like we work on an industry that despite the fact that there are big companies, what actually make the big companies valuable is the artists working there. So let's say that you wanted to work for 343 because Spart was there, right? Well, he's not anymore. Like, do you want to work for 343 or do you want to work with Spart? And having those like actually facing those questions and asking yourself a lot of things along the way may guide you towards the path that will give you the most amount of like it will be more rewarding, right? It will give you that sense of fulfillment that you actually achieved your goal instead of the disappointment of achieving something and that not being what you expected of it.
It's important to gain that clarity. And I'm afraid that only happens when you move, when you walk, when you take steps in the direction you actually must move on. So yeah, it's not like something you can comfortably see from from here, from your seat. You have to get out there and experience it and walk that path and just find out.
Do the questioning while walking, do the questioning while trying it. Don't stop and think while you walk.
A lot of people get so stuck in the theory that they're frozen in place and can't move and get to the practice side. So they overplan and plan and plan and plan and never get to do anything. So that's where my mindset or my perspective on this comes from, because I always value preparation above any planning. Plans can fail, but preparation can take you anywhere. Like if you're just ready to deal with anything, right? It doesn't matter which plan you have. Like plans can fail, but you should be your greatest asset ever, right? And this is where I'm talking about this wealth thing you guys just mentioned as well. Like it's up here. It's what you know. It's your skills. It's everything you've built, but not in the physical necessarily, but up here, like who you are now. So it doesn't matter if you're just catapulted back to day one, because now you know. So I'm not saying it becomes easier, but if you try to gamify this and think about it in terms of like a video game, Like imagine you show up at the beginner level 1, with all that gear and armor and stuff, right? Bro, you're gonna just you look at the NPCs and they die, right? You don't even have to do anything. So I think that there's a lot to learn from that, and also the same story happens with people who win the lottery, for instance. Where people who, I don't know, like you suddenly want to magically get in shape, and you can press a button and you do that. And I don't know, like you get some surgery or something, lipo or liposuction, whatever that's called, right? Like you instantly remove a lot of that. Your mind hasn't changed anything. You're still the same. So guess what? You usually go back to where you were, right? Same story with the lottery thing. Like if you're not mentally prepared for that, suddenly being showered with all that success just puts you in such a compromised situation. Yeah, you don't know what to do. And yeah, it's very destructive. And you can see this everywhere. Young celebrities suddenly being getting very, very famous and a lot of wealth and a lot of stuff, and they fall for the wrong directions in life, and they go down the path of like drugs or addictions, of all that messed up stuff. And some of them, worst case scenario, they end up losing their lives. And so I think that when you don't respect that process, that's what happens. Right? When you suddenly get all this big change all of a sudden and you're not prepared to deal with it, you don't know what to do, then those decision-making moments become a lot trickier. And sometimes they don't end up well, which is why we always say here, like, guys, please get to know yourselves, know who you are, why you think the way you think, why you speak that way, why you live that way, why you do what you do. Like, if you can't express that, it's going to be a lot harder for you to deal with whatever comes next. Because you may enjoy the now moment, which is nice and comfy, but what if tomorrow is going to be a little more shaky, right? You don't know that. I'm not saying this to kind of like scare people or anything, but you don't know. You don't know. And it's better to be a soldier in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah.
Don't know what you think about this, but
no, I think it's true. Going back to the idea of like winning the lottery, I've seen, because I've been in Web3 and crypto for a few years, almost half a decade, and I've seen some people that have made even generational wealth within a month, and some of these guys they didn't really bring value to the table. They didn't have a skill other than being early on a coin that allowed them to get the wealth that they have. So it's just like being the level 1 player, and you got all your DLC and you got all your like extra weapons that are going to help you just like conquer the world. It's like at a certain point you kind of hit all the cheat codes and you're left empty. It's like if you play Grand Theft Auto and you're just hitting cheat codes, at a certain point you're just bored and you're left unsatisfied. And a lot of these people, they feel that void, and it's like, damn, like I won the game. Like what's next? And a lot of it is like what we're talking about right now. It's just like the self-improvement journey. It's like actually,
struggle.
It's going through some sort of struggle to harden yourself or to make yourself feel better, like whatever that might be. But and that goes for like, once you get the thing that you want, it's like, what's next? Like there's always going to be something else. Like,
what did Uncle Ben say?
With great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly. So, when I'm happy for those people who suddenly kind of see themselves at the next better stage in their lives, like they suddenly make a lot of money and stuff like that, like in the examples you mentioned, right? But with that also comes a great sense of responsibility. Now you have all this bunch of possibilities right under your belt. What are you going to do with it, with all this power, right? Are you going to use it for good or for bad? How can I use it for bad, Adrian? Like, come on, it's just a bunch of money. I can spend. It's my money. I can spend it. Sure, I'm no one to tell you how to spend your money. I'm just saying.
Well, you can buy a lot of drugs and go out like distributing it. So that's a way to do bad with it.
It's in the
The
profit
higher
making
cartel
business.
group.
I mean, since you asked, like for anyone who's looking for an idea,
Andre just throwing free ideas out there. Thanks, man. But yeah, I guess it all goes down to this opportunity window, right? Because everything's possible in the worst case scenario. Like whenever there's a conflict, whenever there's a big problem, we tend to see it as something bad. And it probably is, but it's also an opportunity, right? It's also a chance for you to grow. If you think about it from a growth perspective, isn't that how we come into this world? Like it's all nasty, bloody, screamings and like crying tears and it's like painful and bright light and disorientating and everything. And then after that horrible experience, which is perceived as something beautiful by the others, right? Then you start flourishing. And it's like a seed that finally breaks out of it sprouts, right? And it starts growing and stuff. The more you nurture that, the more it grows. And the beauty of that is that you can't really predict which direction each branch is going to go towards. So I don't know, this kind of spills onto the architect versus the gardener kind of thing in storytelling. I like that concept a lot. But the beautiful thing is that that's how pain is a part of the journey. You see? Everything's like connected in a way in my mind. Like that's how I see the bigger picture. Like there's no this without that. There's no one thing without the other. You can't have success without struggle, for instance. And if you have it, then it doesn't feel fulfilling. That $1 million you made with like investing on a crypto, like you got lucky in a way, right? And I know I said this before. This is how people perceive some of your success because you're so lucky, right? But perhaps for some of those people, it's not really luck, but a sheer amount of studying the market and like timing it perfectly and all that stuff, right? That's hard to pull off. But let's say you're one of them and you made it. Who can tell you that's the wrong path to go, right? Now you made your bag and now you're facing this moment of decision-making, crucial moment in your story. Like, okay, I got $40 million in this. What do I do with it, right? Like you could just retire, do nothing. Or let's say you just got the $1 billion thing that Christian told us about, right? You got $1 billion now. What do you do? So it's really up to you. Like you could just choose to spend it in the best way possible. Because let's face it, how much food you think you're gonna need to sustain yourself for the rest of your life with that money? Like it's
It's a lot of food.
Yeah, you don't need that much, right? How many houses do you think you're gonna need to buy to really enjoy all of them? So you're really
Maybe
gonna
like 20.
Yeah, you're gonna start.
I'm kidding.
I think 20 will be enough. Yeah. No, but you're.
Dude,
really
I just want one on each hemisphere, so I can always live in winter time.
My own
So
hotel.
I don't have to go through.
Each time zone.
Buy
Let's
my
go.
own planes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be the shit.
That's where I think we said this earlier, right? Where money amplifies who you are, and it doesn't. It's not like this story. Maybe I'm mixing conversations here because I've had a meeting with my friends this morning as well, and we've been discussing some of these topics too. And this was one of them. Like money kind of amplifies who you are. It shows your true colors rather than corrupting you or anything like that. Because honestly, my perspective on money hasn't changed for years. And I had some recordings from 2017 or 2017 or something like that. I was saying that money is just a tool. It really depends how you want to use it. You can use it for bad things or for good things, to do good, to do bad. It's really up to you. And yeah. And
I very much agree with that. Of course that we were joking. I was joking when I thought about how to do bad with money, but you can actually conceive on a situation that can happen. Like if someone gets a huge sum of money and they somehow get they want to be vindictive towards someone who did bad to them in the past, right? They are in a position to make that happen. Like they can screw someone's life,
Hire a hitman.
I think Well, no, that would actually screw them up a lot. But if you really want to but like you can ruin someone's life, ruin someone's reputation, or like that's what you see in the this whole like cancel culture kind of thing. People look, I don't know many of the cases like that happen over there, but I know of a Brazilian podcaster that like he was talking on his own podcast, like it was him and a friend.
He said the wrong
And they
thing.
were I think that he said something that if he phrased it correctly, it's not really that bad. Like it's not really wrong. He was just bringing questioning a couple of things, a couple of political issues that happen over here. But because like he was super drunk at the podcast, and he also is known for being like this huge pothead. Let's say that he was not like the smartest like guy on earth, right? And he phrased it extremely poorly. There were actually people sending him messages that he should kill himself. It was like huge cancellation. Like the channel was demonetized. People only got happy when he was like kicked out of his own podcast. Beware, guys. But no, but the idea was that this what I assume to be a minority of people actually made so much noise online that had an impact over this person's livelihood, like how they made their money and all of that. And they were actually wanting to, like, for him to cease to exist, like no punishment. It's enough punishment for like saying something that was
just the word
phrased poorly. It's not even like the concept of what he was saying was not even that bad. It was actually like he was comparing Brazilian law to like US law, regarding some issues, and how like a couple of things that we can learn from your guys' culture or vice versa, right? That was the whole podcast episode. But the thing about that whole issue, because I think it was like the biggest cancellation on a Brazilian influencer that I've ever seen, but it was not only his podcast. They had a whole podcast network. They had like, I don't know, 80 employees, almost like 100 people company doing 10 different podcasts along multiple subjects. So like they had a science one, they had like that one which was more casual, kind of like Joe Rogan style. They had some that were specifically aimed like towards a female audience. Like there was a whole host of like different podcasts, and all of them got screwed up because this one guy said one thing on one podcast, and all of them got demonetized. Even like the ones that were not related at all to what they were saying, like they had to do a public announcement that he was getting kicked out. All of the other guys, they kind of turned on them and said like, oh yeah, we have nothing to do with what he said, like we don't condone what he said and all that. So I think
basically the repercussions that your actions have upon such a system or a structure, like a team, like a group, like a business, right? Like
but you do understand that. Yeah, but you do understand
other people, right?
That the people that wanted to hurt him were just waiting for any slight thing,
of course,
that he would mess up, and then the punishment was not just like, oh, I'm screwing your life up.
Yeah,
I'm making it look like you screwed everyone else's life up.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not going to take any responsibility for doing that. I'm going to throw it on your back.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of? That moment where Elon Musk smoked weed on the Joe Rogan podcast that time. And I think the Tesla stock kind of dropped. And I don't know, people were kind of panicked. Like, how can he do that? Like, that's unacceptable. So yeah, I can understand how that can affect the people who are, like, let's say, under your wing in a way.
It's people that had like any connection with you whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Like that's the what I think it's so delicate to deal about. Like I do think that if you do something wrong, you need to you will be punished for it.
You
right?
put them in a weird position, right? In a delicate position, like. So you're connected with him. Do you agree with what he said, or you're like, oh, I don't know. You don't even know
what I've learned is that like not all followers are your fans. You know, people
Yeah.
will follow you just for stuff that they might find interesting, but not all of them are rooting for you. But they'll watch what you do.
Yeah.
Well, it's not
Uh,
only not rooting for you; it's actually like rooting for you to mess up, right? It's actually
Rooting for
wishing
your
you.
downfall.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of like envy that goes into that,
Yeah.
right? A lot of
Especially
like
today.
you being successful proves that I could be as well. Because if a drunk pothead can be successful and make a lot of money, like that only proves that I could be doing the same amount of money. I could be as successful as him, right? And looking at that kind of offends me in a way. So I want him to mess up because then I can live with myself, which is like so corrupt that I can't even like start to think about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
makes you
just
feel
crazy.
better. It makes you feel better about your situation. It's the crab mentality, right? When someone tries to get better and get successful and escape this bucket,
Mm-hmm.
then you see them putting in the effort and stuff like that to climb that wall and get out of here. And because you don't want to do that, you would rather have them stay here with you. So you pull them down because misery loves company. And that if that guy gets out, it's going to be on you to do the same. And you don't want to do that. So please don't get in shape. Please don't change. Please don't land that job. Please don't get successful. Stay with me.
People have a
let's
hard time getting inspired, I feel, by successful people.
yeah.
Like it's so hard to get motivation when you're in a desperate spot, I guess. And so envy is the only thing that you know. And yeah, I don't know how people can't see inspiration from somebody, because I always get inspired by someone like doing better than me. Like I can't see myself being like, oh, he has what I don't have. It's like there's always something to learn from someone higher up, I feel. And they have the keys to fix your situation, maybe. So better to learn from that.
Sure. And hate never comes from above, right? Which already depicts a clear picture of what this works like. And yeah, I can totally understand why, because it's not easy. And that's why they say that success is pretty much a lonely road. And you got to get comfortable with that and used to it, because in the beginning, at least, it's going to feel like that. But trust me, in the very end, you find like-minded individuals who are pretty much aligned with your way of thinking, and you somehow find your people, you find that tribe you've been longing for. And that it is possible, no matter how impossible it looked like in the beginning. At some point, if you just keep walking, you get there. So it's just a matter of time. And that's the very concept that people can't stand. Like, why is it a matter of time? Why can't it be now? Like, that's exactly why you're not there, because you're not even willing to try. So once you get past that initial fear, once you break that threshold, you get comfortable with the path itself and you stop thinking about the destination. You get more in love with the path itself, which brings me back to what you were talking about, the very beginning of the episode, Taylor. Like, I'm just doing the stuff I love, I'm no expectations. Like, I'm not doing this to kind of like, I don't know, to reach some next level gig or whatever. Like, I'm really having fun, right? But Taylor, you're in a bad situation now. You don't have a job, blah, blah, blah. Like, so what? Like, I'm making the most of it, and that's what counts. Because that mentality is what's going to take you to the finish line. And even when you get there, remember, there's no finish line. There's always going to be a taller mountain.
Yes. Yeah. That's the truth. And like going back to what I was talking about with like what we value, and it's all like hard work and hard stuff that we value. I think it's not necessarily true. I think that's more for like status. It's like people have a sense of status through hard things and skill sets or titles. Like that type of stuff can be important, but at the end of the day, it does really depend on like what you value as well. Like what are your intrinsic values, not general intrinsic values of everyone, but really what do you want to do? And for me, it's like the end goal, it doesn't look like a studio job or working for someone. So I've done that and I like it. It's fun, but it's not exactly what I want to be doing. I want to have, that autonomy, like freedom. Like these are values that are intrinsic to me. And at the end goal, I see that as like, like having my own thing, helping others through my own platform, not through a school where they're taking 70% of what it actually costs to like have the course run through administration. I can front load all of that money into my own resources, build a good platform, and make things cheaper for other people. Like,
And also they interfere
yeah.
with the guidelines, and they kind of try to tell you how to teach the stuff they want you to teach instead of letting you teach the stuff you want to teach the way you want to teach it. So it's
exactly, and it might not even be the best thing for the students too. And going off on a little tangent here too about the whole education system and the short-term gratification that we're all seeing, like younger people kind of leaning towards. I think a lot of that has to do with these educational systems because they are a system. They are meant to have people admitted into a program, keep them there only for 4 years, and extract value from them through loans, and then push them out. So there's an incentive structure to get people in and to get them out, depending on how good they, like, it doesn't depend on how good they are. It's just a matter of time. And that's not how art works. Like, it might take you 8, 10, 12 years. Like, I know some people that come in, they have
that long.
yeah, or a lifetime.
Dom had this with someone, I think a little student that was with his mom or something. It's like,
Oh, right.
how long does it take? And he's like, well, I've been doing this for almost 10 years now or something like that. What? 10 years?
Yeah, it takes a long time. And the thing is like, at least where I taught, you have all different types of levels of students. And you're trying to teach one thing that's supposed to be like concrete, and everyone's supposed to be at the same level, but they're not. And that's a problem with, I think, all these institutions is like, versus if you're mentoring someone, you can actually spend more time with them at their level versus like trying to level the playing field for someone who's got 4 years of experience in actual design skills. And you're teaching the same thing to them as well as someone who just is like learning how to draw boxes in perspective. There's a big gap, and it's not the best way to teach people. I don't think the system is kind of broken, and that's what's crazy is it's accredited. It's actually like sanctified by the government. Like this is something that they have to give their stamp of approval on, versus if you went to Brainstorm, CDA, if you guys did like mentorships, you took like Dom's class at Brainstorm or whatever, like Scott Flanders. I'm just like throwing names out there. You could be much better off and actually have like a better idea of what you actually wanted to do instead of going through 4 years of school and being in incredible debt and still having to come out and supplement your education with something else.
This is some Mr. Miyagi stuff from the perspective of like, what's the point of doing this? Like, I don't see how this is going to help me in the future, right? But this is precisely what we always talk about here, all this foundation establishment kind of stuff in the very beginning. Like, you must first know yourself, get your body straight, just get everything aligned, and you'll see how pieces of this big puzzle of your life start falling in place. It's literally our story. Like, that's how we've been living so far. Once we started to focus on ourselves, everything started to, it's like the same thing you guys said about the universe and stuff. Like, it's like it starts listening, like, huh? They're doing their thing. All right, send them the troops, send them the reinforcements, send them the results. And soon enough, you see yourself in this position where things just start working. They just start happening. Like, wow, where are all these offers coming from? Like, wow, today I ran into someone who offered me this. Like, now I have another job, like a better one than the previous one. And now I'm starting to, bro, my body feels better. I feel like I'm getting in shape. Like, look, I can see the results. Like, look at this picture, that picture. Now I'm starting to actually learn more about food. Now I'm starting to, I just started, I don't know, a YouTube channel or some business on the side. Like, you're improving naturally in so many other areas once you get the very basics right. And the basics are not necessarily learning how to draw boxes in perspective. Sometimes it's more than that. That's where all this unconventional teaching kind of thing, right? Where we go for a hike today. What? That's the class? Yes, that's the class. We go for a hike, nature stuff. And
But
that's
what does
where,
it do?
how's this going to help me? Bro, remember that tree we saw all together in the mountain? Like, yeah. Remember those branches? Remember the root system we saw? Remember those bugs we saw? Like, there's so many things that people, like, they go unnoticed to most people.
You know, there's a couple of interesting things about what you're mentioning, because we are always making this parallel between the physical activities and art, because I think the learning path for both is very similar. And also, like, linking back to the educational thing, the way that we used to work, or we used to learn art, like prior to all of these institutions, was actually being under a mentorship for like 7-10 years, right? You would find, like, oh, I want to be an artist. Okay, I'll find the guy who's already there, and I'll work for him for like 10 years, and he'll teach everything that he knows to me. And then, like, once I feel like I'm already, like, I extracted everything that I can from that person, and also that I contributed to his work, right? Because people used to make paintings together, right? They used to, oh, you will paint this area of this painting. Once you're good enough to work on my studio and I'm your mentor, like, you'll do this part of this painting and I'll finish, let's say, the main character, and then you'll learn how to do that. And it's not just extracting it, right? It's not, the mentorship is not just me getting paying you to teach me. It's mostly like, let's work, like, I'll work under your guidance. I'll see what you do on a day-to-day basis. I'll see your routine. I'll, like, follow you wherever you go, right? And that's what made, like, people grow, I think, because it was really that one-on-one experience where I'll use you for what you can do, and whatever you cannot do, I'll teach you how to do, so it can be useful for me, right? So there's an interest in the mentor's side as well. And then we look at what you did with the fitness thing, right? You went after someone who was doing the things that you wanted to do. So, like, oh, Dom, like, what are you doing? I'm learning from someone who's either already there or on the pathway. Like, it's the in between, right? There's the guy that is let's say, the Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? The goal for everyone. And then you find someone who's close to you, and it's on the, like, it's more advanced on the journey to get there.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And if we approach things that way, because there is value to traditional education, right? There's valuable to get general knowledge, right? Basic education, all of that. But if you want to learn a craft, I think that the whole idea of paying a lot to, I don't want, like, to dismiss the teachers at institutions, because I don't think that's the case. I'm pretty sure that they're doing their best, right? But you want you don't want, like, the second best guy that you want to be like. You want the guy that you want to be like to teach you, right? So you don't want that in between all the time. Like, for someone who's incredibly far away, like, unreachable for you, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, yeah, you can find the bridge. But in our industry, like, people are so easy to reach out to. And even if they advise, if it's not a mentorship, right? Yeah. Like, a piece of advice for the guy who's already there, it's way more valuable than getting, like, 20 different teachers that are nowhere near where you want to be. And that will kind of, like, each of them gives you a different advice, and then you are more lost than you are, like, actually going somewhere, you know?
Yeah,
so
it's true.
Instead of asking for it's the same idea of asking for feedback online, right? Who are those people giving you feedback? Like, why is their feedback valuable? It's not, like, they are not where you want to be.
Yeah,
like, go into their profiles.
Opinions from others, right? Just look at them. You know, who is telling you that? Okay, are you going to listen to them? Why? Because they are what they say they are? Are they embodying their own words? And this is a recurrent theme that I see in like people studying degrees of whatever, you know, especially the video game industry and stuff like that. There's a lot of teachers out there who are not actively working in the industry, and they keep teaching the same thing they learned 20 years ago. 20 years in our lifetime right now, in our timeline, is a long time for a lot of things to change, especially with
Even
how
5 years.
with how technology is fastly evolving and growing, right? So that's the problem. You're learning. It's what Andrea said. You're learning from someone who's no longer there, and you want to learn from someone. Like, let's say you want to. I know we keep going to the physical thing, but like you want to run a marathon. Like, you don't want to learn from someone who ran once. I once ran a marathon 20 years ago. I can teach you. Would you rather learn from that guy? Because it's valid experience. I'm not saying it's not. But would you rather learn from someone who's actively running marathons? Like, this guy's running 2 or 3 of those a year. You know, he's constantly training all the time. Who would you rather listen to? I bet you would listen to the guy that's currently active all the time. It's not necessarily who has more experience, right? But who's like at it.
Someone who's
right
a
now.
practitioner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whose experience is more relevant to your specific case as well, right? I think that the job of a mentor, like especially on our position, is mostly understanding where the guy wants to get at, like where the student wants to get at. Because I feel like people, especially younger people, they're super lost. They kind of like everything. I like this piece by this artist here, and then I also like this one by this other artist. And then you were like, okay, those are 2 different things. Those are nowhere close, you know. Like, I like this realistic character, and I like this fantasy environment. It's like, okay, calm down. I also like them. They're also cool, you know. I also think that they are beautiful pieces. But they are. Look, it's a different thing. Like liking something, like finding it beautiful, and also wanting to do that for a living, right?
Yeah, like
this is a nice like place. Let's say
that's a nice house. Would you live here?
Yeah.
Oh no. Like, that's a different story, right? Like, yeah, it's beautiful. I admire it. I think it's nice, but I wouldn't live here.
Adam Duff from Lucid Pixel posted a video about this recently, because he dives a little bit more into the whole like designer versus artist kind of thing, but he talks about his own personal experience of he was going after something that he did not want. You know, he just didn't realize it. And to me, it's like particular at this moment of my life, it was especially impactful on how he talked about the moment of change where he quit a job because he realized that, okay, I'm like putting effort into something that is just pushing me away from what I want to actually do. Because that's also another thing, right? There's the opportunity cost. Like, okay, you're spending time here. You're not just costing that amount of time, right? Like, this is costing you spending the time doing like what you actually want to do and delaying you achieving your biggest goal. So whenever you make a decision, like it can be really just drawing, right? Let's say that I want to, because someone said that I need to draw characters, right? The time that I spend drawing those characters is not only costing me how can I say this? It's not only that amount of time. It's like the compound effect. Yeah, it's the compound effect of me not doing the thing that I want to do. Let's say vehicles, in my case, right? It's costing me getting better at that. So I'm getting better at something that I don't want to do, and I'm getting worse at the thing that I actually want to do because I'm not spending time doing that. So the whole industry is growing on that thing, and I'm just getting delayed even back, right? I'm getting further behind, let's say.
That's dangerous because that's where the analysis paralysis or whatever that's called like can happen, where you have so many options. Oh, but vehicle, no. Characters, no. What if I try? So you kind of like never start because there's so many things you could do. And that's life. I mean, you could be anything. You could be anyone. You could be whatever you want to be.
Why not try everything? You know,
but you got to make a choice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you should try, but it's like try it, you know.
And trust me,
but then once you find it, like you know,
you're not gonna end up like regretting. Oh, I wish I could go back and choose vehicles instead of characters. I bet you choose characters, you start falling in love with characters, designing them, and you're gonna be like, best decision I've ever made, man. I couldn't see myself doing anything else, and that's how it usually goes with everything in life. you tend to look back and think, bro, if you could have a time machine and go back in time and see that younger Taylor, you know, you would tell him, hey, kid, psst, come here. Like, don't do this when you get to that point. Do that instead. You know, like your life would not ever be the same again because of the ramifications and how everything is affected by a tiny little, it's like the butterfly effect and stuff like that. Isn't that what it's called? So yeah, you basically should have absolutely zero regrets, zero fear of whatever you chose, because if you're staying true to yourself and you're making those choices based on your genuine best interest instead of trying to please someone else or satisfying somebody else, like it's usually the case in some family stories, you know, with like, I wanted to prove my dad that I can actually blah, blah, blah. Maybe that's going to lead you down to a more unfulfilled path, but even that's okay, because when you're going to wake up to that reality, you're going to realize and redirect yourself, right? And still rescue that, let's say, bad outcome, kind of save yourself from going there, you know, and heading into the right direction where you initially wanted to go. So you kind of let go of that people-pleasing mentality and you start sticking up for yourself and you live true to yourself, and that's the best thing ever. And you're never gonna feel like regretful or anything like that, because you know you made the right choice. Like, yeah, I had 1,000 other things to choose from, but this is the one I chose, and that's fine. And it's what they have said as well. Like, you can always go back if you want and try vehicles. Why the fuck not? Oh, because I'm 40 now, it's too late. Like, you know how many people started to land jobs and become successful at like 45, 50, if not more. It's insane how often people even switch careers and jobs and industries. They go from like Anthony Jones, you know, like a plumber, and then you working on StarCraft. What? Like, and he was a musician before. It's like, bro, wait, some things like, and I'm sure you found a lot of people like that, that kind of start with the science degree stuff, and then they become artists or vice versa, you know, and it's everything's possible and everything's impossible as long as you allow it to be just that, you know?
Yeah. Do you guys know who Simon Lee is? Spider Zero?
Oh, yeah.
It's a sculptor, crazy savant sculptor. I think he was like in his late 30s or 40s when he picked up sculpting. I don't know exactly what he was doing beforehand, but I mean, it's just like an example of that exactly. And I don't even think he was in an art like career. I think he completely shifted like late into his, you know, his like 30s, 40s. But to the younger viewers on Lightshare, I think this is like really good knowledge for you to know that it actually takes a little bit of time and effort to try different things to see exactly what you really do like, what you really do love, what you're passionate about. You're not going to find that unless you actually do that trial and error to see like what exactly you do like. And that, I think, again, that doesn't really end, because for art, it's so, especially for concept art, it's like so many different things you're going to have to design or know about or be really interested in if you're deciding to specialize in something. That kind of never ends. So like leaning into that curiosity and trying stuff out, being open to different ideas. And like what Andre was saying, like once you know exactly what you want to do and you have those idols or pillars that you can look up to, like the people that are doing exactly what you want to do, then now you have a target that you can hit. You can reach out to those people, get advice. If they're doing mentorships, even better. Now you have time to actually get critique and grow in exactly that path you want to go down. Is the worst thing that I'm seeing, because Dom and I are from the States, and I have a very, very, like, I don't know, I've experienced the whole educational system, and it's like the worst thing to see someone take out hundreds of thousands of dollars to figure out by the end of their education that they didn't want to do what they learned. It's like that opportunity cost is insane. Like that is an opportunity cost that, you know, it's going to actually put you back decades if you don't find something that you really love immediately. So just like a little bit of a warning to people, especially those of you who are deciding to go into a private education system or even something that's accredited that you're going to have to take loans out. I mean, my best advice is take some time to really figure out exactly who you are, exactly what you want to do. Because when you're 18 and you're being told to go off to college, I mean, 18 is like it means that you're an adult. You can buy cigarettes and shit from the store, but it does not mean that you're mentally there for the most part. Like you need to go out and have experience and figure out exactly what you want to do before making one of the biggest decisions of your life. And by the time you figure out what you want to do, you might find other pathways to get there for a price that's a fraction of what you've intentionally thought you'd have to pay, or it might even be free depending on how you go about it. So there's like, that's it.
A lot of kids wasting their money or parents' money.
Yeah.
Just from wrong decisions.
And it's like, oh, you could have bought your kid a house instead of sending them to school to learn something that they're not going to use.
Not even trying in school. And
Yeah. You know what I've heard recently? Like studying a degree in business, like someone was laughing at that. Like studying that, who's teaching you? A teacher who has a business? Ever had any business? No,
they're too busy. They had a business,
you know. So this is where the paradoxical truth of this comes into the game, because there's so many teachers out there who don't really practice what they teach, and that's the problem. You know, you're learning from someone who's not actively involved in what they're teaching, and that shows, right? So they were laughing at this thing where you're studying business. Like, what the... Bro, start a fucking business, right? Don't study business. Like, you're going to stay trapped in the theory for ages. Just start a business, you know, no risk, zero risk. There's a thousand options, and you practice that way. And once you fail at like 10, 20, 30, then you start landing some ideas that kind of click, you know? And then you call yourself successful, and then you make the figures a month, and then everything else starts to fall in place. But it's not going to happen when you're just like hiding behind the, you know, the theory and like.
Yeah, I think
if you do it this way, it's supposed to work. But if you do this, like, bro, shut the fuck. I've been out there.
But
it's bullshit. It doesn't work.
But it's also worth noting, like, think about what the college or course has to offer to you, because I mean, I don't want to generalize, but a lot of what the universities give is actually just a structure, right? They just give you a roadmap. And oftentimes, if you look at the course description or like the like how it's planned out, you can go into each class and see which books they're studying, and you can buy those books and you can study at your own house and like for the fraction of the cost. And of course, you don't have a test to like assert how much you retained of that book, right?
Yeah,
but
that's actually really smart. Yeah.
Yeah, because look, you don't need to pay for a college tuition to go to college, right? If you want a degree, let's say, as an example, my brother works in the he's a physiotherapist. So for like the health related jobs, you do need a degree. Like you are like liable and responsible for a lot of what happens to your patients. So for those kind of things, go to college.
Yeah,
right. Don't just like stood at home.
Yeah.
But for our industry, or as an example, business industry, right? If you want to be an entrepreneur or whatever, buy the books, read about it, study on your own time, right? Like it's not necessarily something that the test that you take at school, if you like get an A or B, will make any difference. It's how much you know about it, how much knowledge you gather, how much experience you gather, and as you said, right? Like look at the examples of people that did that. Like if your teachers never did it, yeah, they might know a lot about that specific book that they are teaching about, or they might know a lot about the life of the person who wrote that book, but they are not the person who wrote the book. They're not the person who did it.
They get comfortable with it, right? Like I've been teaching the same book for years. I don't want to change it now, man.
Well, I think there is something to be said about how deep the knowledge goes into that,
Mm.
and how, as an example, yesterday I was watching a podcast of a Brazilian philosopher, and he was talking about like this ancient Greek like philosophers and how the schools over there are related to each other and all of that, and the fact that he knows a lot about multiple different books, like that's valuable, right? Because he knows the relationship between one and the other.
It creates reference
And
points
I think,
to navigate this.
yeah, exactly. And it's not just like reading one thing and getting indoctrinated into that particular philosophy, right? It's knowing the relationship amongst them. So as long as you keep that like as a factor to consider, right? I think it's the value that the institution gives, it's way more attached to the people that are there than the actual structure that they are giving you, or the books that are making you read, or the syllabus or whatever, right? That's all things that you can attain by yourself, right? And then if you really want, let's say that, because this is what happens in most schools, that they have the one like star teacher, like that's the guy that, oh, he's famous and he's the one that teaches the course, and everyone see if he has like online lectures, which are extremely common nowadays, or if he goes and gives talks to let's say business owners or whatever. See if he has a talk near you, go watch him. If that's the reason like you're getting into school, buy all of the books, don't pay for the tuition, and go watch that guy that is making you want to do this. Go watch that guy first. And then let's say that after you do all of that, you still want to go to the course. Then I think you have a good like indicator that you want to do that for a living or whatever. But if you can study, let's say, one semester worth of books on your own house, like on your own time, look, you are not meant to do this. Like you are not, you don't want it badly enough, right? Same deal. Don't go to art school. Like spend 6 months drawing on your own bedroom. Like if you cannot do that,
yeah,
look,
I think you can.
It's
learn,
not worthwhile.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can learn everything, bro. Like literally, in today's day and age, more than ever, you have zero excuses. With all this, if you have access to the internet, you're already like in a much better position than a lot of other people. So with
true.
that, it's like such a powerful thing in your damn pocket, right? You pull out the smartphone and have access to everything. So with that being said, you have now this obligation, this moral obligation to be your absolute best, and whatever your dreams are, you now got to get after them. So I wanted to ask you guys, how much do you think this thing of talent versus hard work and stuff like that plays a role in your uniqueness, or why you're so different from the rest? Because a lot of people might have, I'm sure you've had this, like, I wish I could do what you do. This is a God-given gift or something like that, which I don't disagree with to a certain extent. Some people might be born with certain inclinations towards, don't know, soccer or play or snowboard or science or math or art, like in our case. But as you've seen, many people kind of like switch careers and try to look for their next better step. But how much do you think that plays a role in this? Because a lot of people have told you like, I could never do this. And you're like, yeah, you totally could. You can learn this. All you have to do is to study, practice a lot, and become obsessed with the craft, and then suffer those nights of, sleepless, whatever, like
So there's always an excuse.
Yeah.
To whatever you say to them.
And they go like, yeah, but still, I don't see the things you see. I don't have your hands to draw like that. Like, bro, it's not about the hands, it's like it starts up here, but they always tend to look for that way out, that quick way out, the quick way out being like, nah, that's not me. That's just you because you're special. Because how much do you think that's true or not really true? Like literally everyone could do this, or only a few could do this, even if they tried. Like I don't think there's anyone out there who tries really, really hard at whatever it is and doesn't win, doesn't succeed. again,
Yeah.
the impossible only takes a little longer. What do you think?
I think that saying that everything is possible for everyone, I think that's a lie. I don't think that it is. I think that trying your best is worthwhile despite of that fact. Because let's say that there is some immutable characteristic of the people that actually make it, like to make it to the highest level, right? And let's say that some immutable characteristic of you specifically that will prevent you from reaching that level. It's immutable. You don't have a say whether that happens or not. You don't have a say on why that's the case. The only thing that you have a say on is what you do. So it's kind of like a null factor in a sense that, okay, it will not make a difference if, let's say that talent exists and it actually is a difference between someone who makes it or doesn't make. Why is that a barrier for you specifically from trying to do the thing that you love to do? You love to do this. You'll be fulfilled doing this, even if you are not the best in the world at doing it. You will live a life that's worth living, even if you don't ever achieve your dream on that. Don't you think that's still worthwhile? Like compared to, let's say, doing something that you know for sure will not fulfill you.
Of course,
and make
if you
satisfied
don't believe in it
and
in the first place.
It's not only believing in it. It's like,
No, but I mean, you said you know for sure you're not going to do it. So let's say you want to sing, right? I like singing.
Yeah.
I want to be the. Everybody says that, you know.
I
like,
want to do
be
this
the
for a
best
living.
painter. I want to be the best this, best that. But like, let's say I want to be better than what I am, and make a living this way. I think if you try hard enough, and you know your physical body in this case, like you need it. You know, you need your vocal cords and everything to work properly to get there and not get injured and not have any issues with that. But let's say you try really hard in practice and look for the best ways to hone your skills, and you start singing better and getting better and better, and you start looking for better ways to get yourself out there. You know, you use the power of the internet and social media and all that stuff to get numbers and views and stuff and get eyes on your work, or in this case, ears on your work. And let's say you start finally landing some gigs. I would call that a big win, right? Now, imagine it doesn't happen. Imagine you keep trying, you keep trying, you keep trying. I still believe this is that. I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen that image of a dude like digging, and he's like 5 centimeters away from the diamonds and gives up, right? I don't know if this could be that case. Like, hey man, I've been doing this for 3 years. Nothing happens. I'm getting better, but no one wants to work with me. No one appreciates what I do. I think you're so close that quitting now would mean just being disrespectful to everything you've been doing so far, right? And in a way, that's what my mom told me when I was like so desperate to kind of like, Mom, I need a job. You know, I might apply for some waiter position at some local restaurant or something. She said, fuck no. You keep painting. You keep getting better at what you're trying to get better at, and you'll land a job, you know? And that was the case. Like, you really don't know when that happens. All you know is that you simply have to keep going. You got to keep walking, got to keep taking steps, showing up every day. And one day, boom, you get your shirt up and abs are there because you've been showing up at all the training sessions and everything, constantly seeing yourself, no improvement, no nothing. It's just, bro, this is getting nowhere. But then one day, bro, and again, don't take this the wrong way. It's not a one day kind of thing, you know, overnight success, but it's something it kind of clicks one day. You're like, holy shit, I'm in the position I used to dream about years ago. And this is something you mentioned as well, Taylor, before. Like, you are now in this position where you've learned something, you've been there, and now you're teaching, you're passing down that knowledge to other people, right? You are now the guy you used to learn from when you started. You see this? It's interesting. when you're a beginner in anything, you tend to look at the ones up there, right? And you're, man, that's so cool. One day I would like to hang out with them. You'll probably never hang out with them. You'll probably, however, get up there with your own people, with your crew, with your squad, and you will be the next generation of those people you used to look up to. And you don't even realize that. You are now in their position with your friends. It's crazy.
It's hard to recognize that because I think it has to do with like your goals always changing too. It's like you kind of forget where you started sometimes. You actually need to sit down and reflect a little bit. Like, oh shit, wait, I actually got here. Like if like old me was looking at me now, I'd be pretty damn proud, you know? But that can kind of can lose sight of it. That's for sure.
That's right, which is why I always say like, hey, it's okay to take a look back and see how far you've come, but don't buy into that idea forever. You know, don't keep staring back, and it prevents you from seeing the here and now and the future, right? So it's okay to take a glance and go like, whoa, dude, we're pretty high right now, you know? Like we've been climbing for a while. Damn, look at the views and stuff, but hey, let's keep climbing, right? So it's only when you get up there that you can actually see the beautiful views and everything, top of the mountain, right? That's what makes all that climb, that tough climb, the storms and everything you've endured be worthwhile.
That's a good analogy to kind of what I was trying to say with that. Not everyone can make it, because the very like intersection of the guy who wants to see that view, the guy who is capable of doing the climb, and the guy who will not stop like midway through when it gets hard. That's the guy that will make it, you know. So it's a multitude of characteristics, right? It's not only either talent or hard work. It's like talent, hard work, pointed in the right direction with the like proper, let's say, trail to get up to the mountain, and like knowledge to look in the right direction, because if you look, let's say, the other direction, the view is not like quite so beautiful, and you're climbing the wrong side of the mountain, let's say,
and, you go like,
and all you see is like,
why are we even doing this?
yeah, exactly. So that's what I mean, right? There is but you can be the guy that is capable of climbing the mountain, and endures that, and does like everything that is necessary, only to realize whenever he's at the top that was the wrong mountain to climb, which is what I think we see on the people that change careers when they were already successful in a particular field. You know, like they learned how to climb a mountain. They were just in the wrong one, right? So now okay, I have that other one. Let me use the skill set, because that's the thing, right? Maybe
trying to climb a tree, basically.
Kinda, yeah. Right, but they are pretty damn good at climbing trees now. So it's like,
that's impossible. This shouldn't be possible. Like, how could they manage? But no, but that's a real example too. You know, like you can't ask a fish to climb a tree. It belongs in the water. That's where they perform best, right? And then if you ask a monkey to kind of perform like a fish in the water, it's gonna be a mess, right? And if they,
I've heard this analogy recently.
Yeah, they compare to each other.
Being a duck.
Duck?
You know? Like, yeah, because you don't quite fly that well, but you know how to fly. You don't quite swim that well, but you know how to swim. You're not that fast on land, but you can walk.
Yo, that's
like ultimate generalist.
Yeah, specialist versus generalist. In a way.
I mean,
might be good at one thing, but
whatever works for you, right? And if you like it that way and you're content with it and you're happy and fulfilled and satisfied, why the fuck not? Who's to say or to tell you how to do the things you want to do? It doesn't matter. Now you're living on your own terms. And that's what I was talking about before. The most liberating thing is to stay true to yourself and be like, I found it, dude. I'm finally doing the thing I wanted to do forever. And I'm finally having the courage to kind of step in this direction. And it feels so good, so liberating. You're finally free from the opinions of other people, your family. Don't do this. You should study this instead. You should look for a real job. I'm sure you guys have heard that a lot. You know, like you just draw stuff. That's not a real job. Get a real job. So, you eventually get to a point where it's exactly what Taylor was talking about too, with the no longer willing to exchange your time for money, and just wishing to simply work on your own dreams, and having money not be a problem because you fixed that problem already somehow, right? There's a ton of ways to do that in this day and age. But eventually, you must also recognize that that's a part of the journey. You will have to suffer that bad job, you know? And I'm saying suffer like this because we don't have it bad at all, right? And we work on a computer.
And suffering's relative too.
Yeah, but over time, it consumes you, and it consumes you only if you realize or you wake up to the concept of, hey, this is not really something I want to do. And you keep repeating that every day for months and years and decades, and that really kills your soul in a way. So you must recognize,
I am interested though.
It's a part of the journey. That's all I'm saying. It's a step, it's a stage of this whole race. So you got to understand that at some point it's going to come to an end, and I'll step into the next stage, and that transition might take weeks, months, probably years, but it will eventually happen based on your vision, what you want to accomplish. If you want to stay there forever, so be it, man. Like, no one can tell you what to do, right? You should be, at least, the main character in your own story. If not, who's driving the bus, man? Who's driving this vehicle? You're in the passenger seat all the time? Then who's driving? So, yeah, take the wheel and just own it.
But I am interested. You're going to this like mentorship route now, and we kind of touched on two different problems. One of them is the mentality, right? Like how people are viewing it. And the other one is the skill set, which kind of touches on schools not preparing people well enough, or at least in the right direction. Because big institutions are kind of like slow to move, which is why they have a hard time adapting to like super fast changes in the like work environment, all of that. Which one do you deal with the most when dealing with your students? Like, which one is the biggest problem that you see, and both in your students and also like in the art community as a whole?
That's a great question.
Like like which are the two exact examples?
So one of them is like a skill-based issue, right?
Okay.
And the other one's more of like a mentality issue. And I do think we are facing both of them because of the whole like AI advent. Because now people that are not as well guided, let's say, they have a weaker mindset. They will tend to like see that and give up. But we cannot forget about the other side as well. So which one are you dealing the most on those individual bases?
Yeah,
like
when I was teaching at an institution, the one thing I would see especially is mindset. I mean, the skills, I think they're kind of intertwined, the mindset and the skills. But yeah, you'd see a lot of the mindset lacking discipline. And that's not to say I didn't have students that were already like stars. Like I did have about, I would say like random number, like 20% of my students, I could already see like in the way they carry themselves, present their work, and the skill level they're at and how they take direction. Like, okay, you're going to have no problem in this industry whatsoever because you've already got the mentality, and the mentality is lended itself to the skills that you have now. So the hardest thing is getting people over the hurdle of their mentality, and like they're wanting things to be quick. It's like they expect the assignment that I give them to solve all their answers. It's like, no, this assignment times 1,000 will maybe get you to where you like wanted to be. And that's the mindset that I think a lot of people don't have. Is like, yeah, it's going to take a shit ton of time, effort, practice, hard work, and suffering. But like I was saying earlier, like suffering is relative, and like you can actually enjoy the process at a certain point, just like exercising. Like I actually enjoy going out and working with Dom in the morning. Like this is one of like the highlights of my day. It's like, like that suffering is more fulfilling. It's like the Greeks had a
Dom's
word for
everyone's highlight of the day, man.
I guess it's because it's meaningful, right? You attach meaning to that pain. let's say.
Yeah, and that's where the Greeks, I think, were kind of like on another level, because like they had this word called eudaimonia, and it means like it's like the purest form of fulfillment and satisfaction. And that doesn't mean that you're like a hedonist that's just seeking pleasure all the time. It means that you're actually seeking things that are allowing you to strive. It's like seeking the things that are hard that lead to improvement. And that is a satisfaction I think a lot of people are probably missing in their lives. They don't even recognize it. That it's like it was a thing that they live by. The Greeks lived by that. They strive for eudaimonia, where they were, like they held physical fitness at a high standard. Like that's why they had the fucking Olympics. Like they held that to a high standard because it led to that self-satisfaction. It's like all these things, like learning, anything that's hard that improves you can be satisfying, and it leads to that satisfaction. And like getting that in your mind and actually going through those steps of doing hard things that lend a result at the end, and keep doing those. And you see that the more you do it, the better you get. I mean, that's a satisfaction that you really can't argue against. But for students, once they figure that out, it's like they've unlocked, like they've got a key that's unlocked another door that they didn't even realize could open. And now they're free. It's like when I see that, it's like, okay, you're ready. You're ready to take on the path of mastery and go down that forever. You have the mentality for it. It's like, how do I train these other people to like have the mentality for it? And a lot of that's like, as a teacher, you have to demonstrate that, right? And that goes back to like the professors at institutions that can't demonstrate. Like that's like a surefire sign of like, that should not be your mentor. If they can't demonstrate what they talk about and show you the process of going through the struggle and actually having a result at the end that actually looks good or is achieving whatever they intended to get, like, like those are the people you should be looking towards. And hopefully like through looking at those types of people and seeing their process and understanding where they've come and gone, I think hopefully that can maybe change the mindset. But yeah, a lot of it to me is the mindset is like the limiting factor. And it's crazy because you think it's just like an inherent thing, like you have talent, but talent I think is maybe just like an inclination to strive to do a certain thing. Where those inclinations come from, I don't know, your parents, your friends, external factors, but at the end of the day, a lot of it's the hard work. It's like the mindset to get you from point A to B to C to D or wherever you're trying to go.
You're lacking.
And that applies to everything.
We're seeing so many artists like suffer from self-confidence. And I think the thing they need more is to develop their mentality and not more art tutorials, right? Because art tutorials are like a dime a dozen. You can download them, watch them, learn from them, but mentality and self-confidence is something that you have to like put yourself through all these experiences, all this hardship.
Yeah.
Like, I have a lot of students like come up to me telling me they're afraid of like a lot of things in life, and I'm like, that's not an art issue. That's a human issue. That's a you issue. Like no art tutorial can help you get over that fear-based mindset of like, I got to do this, to improve. It's all about you. And I think that's like what's not taught a lot is the self-improvement side in art. It's just like brush packs, tutorials,
The
learn how to
superficial
texture
stuff.
this. Yeah. But it's not about like, how do I get through this shit, to implement this easier. So, yeah.
And it's also like worth noting that most tutorials are technique based, right? Like they're just like, and that's why you see a lot of copycats. Like you see the portfolio and it's one piece by each different artist that has a Gumroad, It's not actually that person. So if you don't have this unifying like mentality, like that defines who you are as an artist, because you can learn the techniques, like that's not a bad thing. Go ahead, watch the Gumroads, but produce something that looks like you, right? Not look like the second hand, let's say John Park,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
teaching
know.
is an art in itself, man. It's why there's not many good teachers out there, because it's the same with like design, for instance. You may have everybody has good ideas, but you're lacking the bridge between the ethereal realm of your mind and the physical realm where your hands perform the movements with the tools to manifest those ideas. That's where you're lacking. You don't know how to draw the things you see in your mind. You don't know how to express the things you see in your mind. This is not only limited to art. This is also like language or sound, or the way you speak. Because you may have great stories to tell, but if you're lacking the knowledge in that specific language, you're gonna have a hard time manifesting those ideas. So yeah, it's the whole teaching thing, like what we said earlier, unconventional ways to teach things. Like, hey, wait a minute, why are we doing this? Like, this has nothing to do with what I signed up for. Like, it'll make sense later. Don't worry. It almost reminds you of those movies, like old masters, like taking you on long trips across the mountains and stuff. What for? Like, what is this? I just wanted to learn how to whatever, And then you understand, everything clicks. The same way you look back now at those years, maybe in college or high school, I'm sure you've had like maybe one teacher that you remember because of the way he taught things or she taught things in that specific way that stuck with you. Yeah. And at the time, it didn't make much sense, but only decades later, you're like, now I understand. It happens with maybe, I don't know, your father, an uncle, your grandpa, whoever it is in your family, some old friend when you were little said something that didn't make any sense back then. But now you understand it because now you have the vision, you have the eyes to see the truth he was talking about back then. So you see how it's really important to keep moving, to keep making this progress, to keep walking forward, because it's the only way to find out. If you stay in place, no one's going to come to you, man. No one's going to come save you. No one's going to come move you. No one's going to come push you, try to convince you. Come on, Taylor, please move a little bit forward, make some progress. Bro, no one cares.
Well, on that note, like no one will reach to you, but if you show a little bit of improvement to someone who cares, like they will help you quite a bit, Like if you show, you give one step, the person like takes you and holds your hand while you give the other steps.
Yeah.
Like no one will give that first step for you. So like people should be encouraged to start because they know that they will support it, but to also understand that to start is not up to anyone else, right?
Exactly. It depends entirely on you. So once you take responsibility for that, you take ownership over that mission, then you start seeing results. Then you start seeing how other people are responding to your actions. And suddenly you feel like the planets are aligned for you and you only. Like everything's in your favor, everything starts to click, everything falls in place, and it feels like magic. And that's the beauty of this whole realm of, I call it like an ocean of lies sprinkled with some truth here and there. And it's up to you to decide which ones are which. Because from a distance, everything looks like a big mass, like a big clump of things, just water. But it's only when you get close because you move, then that you are able to tell the difference. Like, this is actually, okay. So, and that's, yeah, sure. Yeah, these are different things. All right. From a distance, it seemed like the same, but it's not. But few people are willing to do that, which is why you are one of the few ones who are willing to explore the uncertain realm of the unknown, right? So that's scary. That's what triggers this fear and insecurity and panic mode in you. And one thing that I used to tell myself is that if you truly want to do something and you're sort of scared of trying, then it instantly becomes your call. Like you got to do it now, So, yeah.
We hit 2 hours, I think.
Oh yeah, a little over that.
Okay, so hit the halfway mark. Oh, that's
that's enough.
No, but this was a good one.
I'm really happy. Yeah, I'm really.
Yeah, I'm like motivated just like talking to you guys.
Awesome.
It's good.
It was really nice to hear from you and your stories and how you managed to kind of make this change and stuff, and you're on it. And I wish you nothing but a lot of strength. I don't wish you any luck, because we don't rely on luck. We rely on strength and sheer
Hard work.
power of will to keep moving forward and just manifest your ideas and make your dreams come true and all that stuff. But it's all funded in day-to-day work, showing up every day.
Consistency.
Consistency.
Yeah,
Yes.
And I'm proud of the movement that you've made, man. I'm proud of seeing
We're
your
all
progress.
proud.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
That's amazing. I can see the weights back there and everything. So I get
Gonna turn into a Chad. That's what
He just placed those there for the episode,
Yeah.
He's not actually using them.
He's turning into an addict.
Yeah, I had to curate my room and put those weights right there so the camera would pick them up.
That's so cool.
We're actually gonna put them into practice. So
Nice.
this year is the year
Nice.
to
Nice.
Yeah, buddy.
level up.
From here, the sky's the limit. So you're already tapping into all that hidden potential. From here, you can only go up. So, yeah, thank you a lot, man.
That's the
Thanks for joining us on this episode as well. This has been one of the most satisfying ones that we've recorded. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you guys.
Great.
Really appreciate you guys having me on.
nice.
Any last thoughts for the audience? Anything you want to say for them?
Don't be afraid. Fear is the mind killer.
That's a good one. No, really. When you take away that from the equation, like if you knew you could never fail, what would you do? Right? Would you jump? Would you take the leap? If you know you can't die, if you know you can't fail, you can't lose, if you know nothing can go wrong, would you do it?
Jump.
That's the thing. Yeah. Take the leap.
Yeah, I'm closing my eyes, otherwise I'll cry with you saying that. It's only half a joke. I started tearing up. So, let's end it before.
Before the waterworks, guys.
Well, leave any comments down below if you guys found anything insightful, and we'll put the links down. Taylor's links, Instagram, ArtStation. And stay strong, and see you guys in the next one.
Thank you, guys.
Peace, guys.
And don't be afraid.
That's
Bye, guys.